Chapter 13:16. Before the war between the two realms, Lin Feng, Xiao Yan, and the others visited the ancient longevity world. Xiao Yan, Dao Master Qing Ning, and Dao Master Ling Ju. Gu Yuankai held a small-scale elixir gathering. There were only 3 people participating in the elixir gathering. In terms of scale, it could hardly be called an elixir gathering. But in terms of the identity of the participants, whether it was Dao Master Qing Ning, Dao Master Ling Ju, or Xiao Yan, they were all the best alchemists in the Divine Land. The elixir gathering was of a ridiculously high standard, rarely seen since ancient times. And the witnesses of the elixir gathering, Lin Feng, Gu Jun, and Yin Nanlai, were all of high status. In that elixir gathering, Xiao Yan defeated Dao Master Qing Ning and Gu Yuankai of the Taishu Temple and won. At that time, Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai were surprised and impressed by Xiao Yan's attainments in the way of alchemy. Before Xiao Yan, there were already innovations, but they were not comparable to the 10 Saints' Golden Elixir, Longevity Elixir, Bodhi Elixir, and other top elixirs. Gu Jun and the rest all vaguely thought that as Xiao Yan's cultivation grew higher and he immersed himself in alchemy for a longer period of time, there would be a day where he would be able to be like Chong Huang, Xia Huang, Gu Huang, Yin Xinghe, Sharaputa, and the others back then, creating a new kind of top-notch elixir. However, they had never imagined that this day would come so soon. Although he had successfully achieved the primordial soul realm, his divine sense and dharma power far surpassed cultivators of the same realm, and his talent in alchemy was outstanding. Xiao Yan was still very young compared to the other seniors. Compared to the age when Gu Huang and the others created top elixirs like the longevity elixir, the current Xiao Yan was probably not even a fraction of their age. In Xiao Yan's long life in the future, how many new achievements he will have is something that no one can predict. While the possibility of Xiao Yan falling to the Tao did exist, with Xianmen Tianzong and his current momentum, it was not something that could be done by an ordinary person. When they thought of the 33 Heavens Fortune Immortal Pill that had suddenly appeared with Lin Feng, Gu Jun, and Gu Yuankai couldn't help but sigh together. Everyone in the world knew that Xianmen Tianzong's Tao was profound, like the origin of the great Tao. There were many treasures in the sect, and its capital was strong. Now, its achievements in alchemy were enough to make the entire human cultivation world look at it. Gu Yuankai used his spiritual sense and magic power to analyze the profound sky multiverse golden elixir in front of him. He asked with interest, "What are the effects of this pill?" Although Gu Yuankai had been more inclined towards the Taishu Temple before, after the war between the two realms that had just ended, his attitude had begun to change. He was obsessed with the art of alchemy, so when he saw a brand new top-notch spirit pill that was comparable to his longevity pill and treasure lotus pill, his interest was piqued. Xiao Yan smiled. "If you want to consume this pill, it can also be used. When combined with the treasure lotus pill, it will be even more wondrous." Gu Yuankai's gaze flickered. Oh, the 2 top-notch spirit pills passed down by the ancient emperor were the longevity pill and the treasure lotus pill. The former was only effective for cultivators below the primordial divinity stage, but its effects could be said to be heaven-defying. As everyone in the Divine Land knew, cultivators in the Golden Elixir period could only live for 1,000 years. Although cultivators in the Yuanying stage could live longer, once the 3,600 years limit was up, if they couldn't attain the primordial divinity stage, they could only return to dust and return to dust. However, the ancient emperor's longevity pill could extend the lifespan of cultivators below the primordial divinity stage. Depending on the specific situation of the person who consumed it, the extended lifespan was also different. However, the longest recorded person's lifespan could be extended by 1,000 years. For cultivators in the Yuanying stage who only had a lifespan of 3,600 years, this was undoubtedly a great extension. Perhaps because of this extended lifespan, cultivators who were supposed to reach the end of their lives could successfully break through the bottleneck of the primordial divinity stage and achieve great freedom. A single pill could mean 2 completely different fates. Although it had no other effects, this effect alone was enough to make the longevity pill one of the top-notch spirit pills. However, it was not easy to refine the longevity pill, and there were many restrictions. Even within the ancient emperor's bloodline, they were unable to produce it on a large scale. The number of pills was always limited, and there were even gaps in history. Compared to the longevity pill, the other top-notch spirit pill, the treasure lotus pill, was not as famous. This was because this pill was similar to the golden elixir of the Taishu temple. Its main purpose was to help the descendants of the ancient emperor cultivate the primordial divinity technique of longevity. Those who consumed the treasure lotus pill could greatly assist them in cultivating the primordial divinity technique of longevity. Not only was it convenient for their daily cultivation, but it was also convenient for them to comprehend the Tao and break through bottlenecks. Aside from this main effect, the treasure lotus pill also had other effects. For those who did not cultivate the primordial way of longevity, it was also useful. However, it was not as famous as the golden elixir of the divine arrival great path. In this aspect, it was the same as the golden elixir of the primordial way. For the aboriginals, it was naturally better to consume the treasure lotus pill as soon as possible. However, it would still take effect even if it was consumed later. However, Gu Yuankai had naturally consumed a long time ago. Now that Xiao Yin mentioned that the mysterious sky golden elixir was equally effective for Gu Yuankai, who was already in the Tao integration realm, and could be used together with the treasure lotus pill, Gu Yuankai thought about it and immediately understood. Is it similar to the supreme treasure wisdom pill, which is beneficial for comprehending the Tao? That's right. This is one of the effects of this pill. Xiao Yin smiled and nodded. One of the main ingredients of the mysterious sky golden elixir was the cloud forest fruit that grew from the cloud forest tree. Logically speaking, using the ginseng fruit as the main ingredient like the supreme treasure wisdom pill would have a better effect. However, after Xiao Yin tried to adjust it, even if he used the cloud forest fruit as the main ingredient, it would still have a huge effect. One of the main effects of the mysterious sky golden elixir was to make one's mind more agile, which would make it easier for one to communicate and comprehend the Tao of heaven and earth. Both Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai knew that there were cloud forest trees in Xianmen Tianzhou. However, even so, they still clicked their tongues in wonder. Xiao Yin was like a clever housewife who couldn't cook a meal without rice, yet he still managed to make a table full of good dishes. After pondering for a while, Gu Yuankai continued to ask Xiao Yin, "One of the effects. Is there another?" Xiao Yin smiled. "You won't be able to use the other main effect. Even cultivators in the Yuanying and Golden Elixir periods won't be able to use it. Even for Foundation Establishment cultivators, only those in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment period will be able to use it." When Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai heard this, they didn't look down on him. Instead, their expressions became serious. After the two of them looked at each other, Gu Yuankai didn't say anything this time. Instead, Gu Jun asked, "From what you're saying, could it be related to building a spirit platform?" Xiao Yin smiled and nodded. "That's right. Although I'm not 100% sure, this pill can increase the grade of a cultivator's spirit platform by 1 level. The lower the grade of the spirit platform, the higher the chance of success. Below grade 3, there's a 100% chance of success. Apart from not being able to upgrade a grade 1 spirit platform to a supreme spirit platform, it's possible to upgrade a grade 3 spirit platform to grade 2 to grade 1, and the chances are very high." After hearing Xiao Yan's words, Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai were silent for a while. After the Golden Elixir period, the direct impact of one's innate aptitude on cultivators would gradually weaken. But why did people attach so much importance to innate aptitude? Apart from being convenient for testing, the most important point was that building a spirit platform and condensing a pill cauldron during the Foundation Establishment period would largely determine one's future achievements and heights. Although the direct impact would weaken, the foundation laid before would have an extremely far-reaching impact. A 9th grade spirit platform and a 9th grade pill cauldron meant that there was no hope of directly forming a core. After forming a yellow core, not to mention the Yuanying period, Even passing the tribulation of attracting fire and reaching the middle stage of the golden elixir period was an extravagant hope. For a jade core cultivator, the middle stage of the golden elixir period was most likely their final destination. Only those with great luck would be able to pass the wind tribulation and reach the late stage of the golden elixir period. As for the yuanying period, they didn't even need to think about it. To break through to the yuanying period, one would need at least a third or fourth grade spirit platform pill cauldron to form a vermilion core. However, it was extremely difficult for a vermilion core cultivator to pass the void thunder tribulation and successfully form a nascent soul. To form the best purple core, only a first or second grade spirit platform pill cauldron would have any hope. Xianmen Tianzong's Book of Tao and Virtue was a direct inheritance of the 8 trigram scripture of the Great Way. As long as one succeeded in cultivating it, they could obtain a first-grade spirit platform. It could be said to be an unprecedented feat, however. There was a prerequisite, and that was that one had to succeed in cultivating it. It was not without reason that Xianmen Tianzong had a high threshold for accepting disciples. Up until now, only when Wang Lin's foundation and physique had not changed qualitatively was he able to rely on his great comprehension and willpower to forcibly establish a fourth-grade spirit platform using the Book of Tao and Virtue. However, before the spirit platform had truly been established, it was interrupted by Lin Feng's intervention, causing Wang Lin to fall back to the early stage of foundation establishment. He didn't want Wang Lin to be overly hasty, which would cause his future cultivation to become increasingly difficult and narrow until it was cut off midway. For some people, the improvement of the middle stage of foundation establishment could have the effect of reversing their fate. When Xiaoyan was trying to figure out the Mysterious Sky Myriad Wonders Golden Elixir, he added a leaf from the Mysterious Sky Treasure Tree as one of the main ingredients. A leaf from the Mysterious Sky Treasure Tree alone had the effect of improving the grade of the spirit platform. Back then, Yu Hongyan, Wang Lin, Yang Qing, and the others had all benefited from it. However, this effect was not stable. Rather than saying it was an improvement, it was more like giving people more opportunities. The main thing still depended on the cultivator themselves. However, after Xiaoyan had continuously ground it and smelted it into the Mysterious Sky Myriad Wonders Golden Elixir, this profound effect had become an almost stable improvement. With such an effect, in addition to the effect of improving one's comprehension, it could be said that the Mysterious Sky Myriad Wonders Golden Elixir lived up to its name. After a moment of silence, Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai both sighed. Gu Jun turned to look at Lin Feng and said with a sigh, "Your sect's Tao of Alchemy has already surpassed countless predecessors. We are truly ashamed to have inherited the shadow of our ancestors." Gu Yuankai looked at Xiaoyan and said solemnly, "Other than your teacher, you could be called the #1 alchemist in the Divine Land. Even if the Tianxing Taoist of the Taishu Temple is still alive, when he created the great Tao of Divine Arrival Golden Elixir, the time he had cultivated and immersed himself in the Tao of Alchemy was much longer than yours. If the last pill gathering could not be established, then now that the Mysterious Sky Myriad Wonders Golden Elixir has appeared, there is no longer any dispute." Chapter 13-17. Lin Feng and Xiaoyan did not usurp the limelight. Gu Jun, Gu Yuankai, and the others were grateful, but they would not remain silent. The ancient race had inherited the ancient emperor's alchemy skills, and their high attainments were publicly acknowledged. It was fine if others did not know of their existence. But after the ancient race officially returned to the public's attention through participating in the war between the two worlds, everyone recalled the ancient race's achievements in the Tao of Alchemy. At this moment, Gu Jun and Gu Yuankai's endorsement of the Mysterious Sky Golden Elixir shocked the world once again. The power of the celestial sect of wonders had already caused the world to exclaim in admiration, and they even began to feel numb to it. In the eyes of the vast majority of people, the repeated successes of the celestial sect of wonders had already become a common occurrence. Only when something went wrong with the celestial sect of wonders would everyone be surprised. But when a news spread this time, it still shocked many people. This sect that had risen in an extremely short period of time had displayed an extremely vigorous vitality, making it difficult for people to belittle them because of their weak foundation. It was not just in terms of strength and influence. Xianmin Tianzong had displayed great strength in all aspects. They developed in many aspects and did not give people the feeling that they were weak. The rise of a powerful force under the leadership of a powerful person would sometimes make people worry that they would decline and suddenly fall like a meteor. In the past, Xianmin Tianzong would also make many people have such a feeling. But as Ying Hai fell into Lin Feng's hands, Zhu Yi's Tao of Change Academy spread throughout the world, and Xiao Yan's creation of the mysterious sky golden elixir, Xianmin Tianzong's foundation had already become extremely solid. Although it was high and mighty in the past, it gave people a feeling that it was illusory. But now, it was indomitable and connected to the nine hells. Xianmin Tianzong's weight in the eyes of others had also become heavier and harder to shake. It was true that the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. However, for the current Xianmin Tianzong, there was no longer a need to hide many things. It was fine even if he openly showed it to others. When the gap between the two parties was large enough, jealousy, slander, and jealousy would gradually disappear. Instead, it would turn into longing and following. Although Lin Feng and Xiao Yan didn't mention much in their congratulations, they had more or less reached a tacit understanding with Gu Jun. Although the wedding date was not set, the marriage between Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhen was basically confirmed. On the way back, Xiao Yan would often laugh foolishly when he was alone. When Lin Feng saw this, he couldn't help but find it both funny and infuriating. They did not stay long in Longevity City. After congratulating him, they took their leave. The return of the Aboriginals to the Divine Land had a profound impact on the major forces other than Xianmin Tianzong, Taishu Temple, and the Shushan Sword Sect. If Gu Jun and the others wanted to reintegrate into the human cultivation world of the Divine Land, they would need a plan and use both carrot and stick. Among the forces that were on good terms with Xianmin Tianzong, there were those who established ties with the Aboriginals and those who were hostile to them. After returning to Yujing Mountain, Xiao Yan prepared to return to Heavenly Gold Pavilion directly. On one hand, he would continue to refine the mysterious sky golden elixir, and on the other, he would further fine-tune the pill recipe. In Xianmin Tianzong, there were some disciples who could benefit from this pill when they were building their beer. Moreover, not mentioning the effect of this pill in raising the grade of the beer, just increasing one's perception and helping one to understand the Tao was already very valuable. Not counting the Taishang Treasure Wisdom Pill, which was difficult to refine due to the lack of raw materials. Just the combination of the mysterious sky golden elixir and the 33 days of Fortune Immortal Pill had the effect of increasing one's perception. With the two added together, the effect would be quite significant. At this moment, Xianmin Tianzong was in a period of rapid development. It might be an exaggeration to say that it was changing every day, but the speed at which a large amount of potential was transformed into great strength was enough to blind everyone. Other than Xianmin Tianzong, the mysterious sky golden elixir was a priceless treasure. Even the disciples of Taishu Temple yearned for it, not to mention the descendants of the other sections. However, before he stepped into the entrance of Heavenly Gold Pavilion, Xiao Yan's eyebrows twitched. The person who returned to the mountain is Little Huang? Why does he seem to have brought back a big demon? This demonic aura is so unfamiliar. It seems to be a demon that I have never come into contact with before. At this moment, there was a commotion in the Sky Desolate Valley. The disciples of the Sky Desolate Valley, as well as the many demons that resided here, were curiously gathered in a circle, staring at the huge beast in the middle. Beside the beast stood a young man. It was Huang Jinting. He looked at Zhuge Wanxiu, who had come after hearing the news. "Senior sister, do you know this beast?" Zhuge Wanxiu sized up the beast and shook her head after a while. "I have never seen it before." Next to Zhuge Wanxiu, the Kuei Ox King snorted and looked at the nine-clawed Eagle King. Eagle King What is this? The nine-clawed eagle king shook his head. I have never seen or heard of it in the vast land of infinite wilderness or the divine land. The Phylean king, the flying snow feather king, the heavenly snow feather king, and the other demons were also confused. Zhuge Wanqiu said hesitantly, "It seems to be very gentle and not aggressive, although its demonic aura is that of a late-stage demon king." Beside her stood a little girl with hair as white as frost. It was her disciple, Yi Xinxuan. She sized up the huge beast in front of her curiously while secretly tugging at her master's sleeve. "Master, this big demon looks so cute. Although it is huge, it still looks very cute." As soon as she said this, the group of younger disciples of the celestial sect of wonders actually all nodded at the same time, especially the female disciples. Their faces revealed expressions of deep agreement. However, after hearing Yi Xinxuan's words, everyone raised their guard in case the beast in front of them suddenly attacked. After all, no one had ever seen this demon before. Although it looked a little dull, it was a genuine late-stage demon king. If Yi Xinxuan angered it, and it went berserk, Yi Xinxuan would not be able to withstand it. Zhuge Wanqiu, Huang Jinting, and the nine-clawed eagle king would have to take action. However, it turned out to be a false alarm. Although the great demon seemed to understand Yi Xinxuan's words and even slowly turned its head to look at her, it still had a dazed look on its face. It lay on the ground lazily and did not move at all. Huang Jinting smiled. "This guy is very dull and lazy. As long as you don't really attack him, he won't get angry." Master entered the void battlefield to look for Elder Shur and accidentally found a medium-class world. There are such demons living there. There are not many of them, and their strength varies. Master has eaten more demons than many of us have seen, but even he has never seen or heard of such a demon before. Huang Jinting was smiling from ear to ear, but the nine-clawed eagle king, one-legged ox king, flying snow plume king, Phylean king, and the other demon beast shuddered at the same time and looked at Huang Jinting with annoyance. Huang Jinting didn't seem to notice anything. In fact, he had been following Shur Tianhao around Tianhuang mainland all these years, and imitating him, he had eaten countless demon flesh and blood. So Master used his dermic powers to subdue the one with the highest cultivation and asked me to bring it back to the mountain for the Ancestral Master to take a look. Perhaps the Ancestral Master would recognize this demon. Huang Jinting continued. "After careful observation, I found that this guy is quite easy to get along with. Just as Yuan Shuang said, this guy looks quite cute." After a short pause, Huang Jinting continued, "I wonder how it tastes." Hearing this, many female disciples, including Zhuge Wanqiu, glared at him to express their dissatisfaction. The great demon also glanced at Huang Jinting slowly, then snorted softly and turned its head in another direction. The nine-clawed eagle king said with a fake smile, "Heavenly Emperor Huang, you didn't kill this guy to taste it?" It was completely not in line with Shur Tianhao's usual behavior. Huang Jinting said, "Master had some clues to find Elder Shur and was in a hurry, so he did not stay for long. He only left a spatial mark and asked me to bring it back to the Ancestral Master." Everyone could not help but nod. Right, this was Shur Tianhao's way of doing things. In his eyes, there's only tasty and not tasty, not cute and not cute, or edible and not edible. Zhuge Wanqiu, Yi Xinxuan, and the others were also very helpless about this characteristic. Zhuge Wanqiu contacted her father, Zhuge Zhan, through telepathy using dermic powers, then used light and shadow to show Zhuge Zhan the appearance of the demon. Zhuge Zhan, who had traveled far and wide, was also amazed when he saw this demon, indicating that he had never seen it before. Sun Xuer and Ku Jing, who were close friends with Zhuge Wanqiu, came over when they heard the news. When they saw the great demon, their hearts were filled with love. However, when they saw the great demon, they naturally did not know who it was. They sent messages to their respective masters, Zhu, Yi, and Yu Hongyan, but they had never seen it before. Hearing that Xiao Yin had returned, They specially went to Finch and Cliff to find Xiao Yan's mount, Yuanxing White Tiger, the daughter of the White Tiger Saint, and asked her to ask the White Tiger Saint. The White Tiger Saint, who had lived in the vast land of infinite wilderness for many years, looked at the slightly fat demon in front of him with a puzzled expression. Huang Zhenting clapped his hands. "All right, let's not talk too much. I'll send this lazy thing to the ancestral master first, so that he can have a look first." With that, he took the great demon out of the desolate sky valley, crossed the rainbow bridge, and walked to the top of Yujing Mountain. "Ancestral master, what is the origin of this black and white bear demon?" Huang Zhenting, who came in front of Lin Feng, asked curiously. "A black and white bear?" The corners of Lin Feng's mouth twitched. His face was expressionless, but he felt as if there were countless alpacas galloping wildly in his heart. Even though it was a lot bigger, but that black and white fur color, round cheeks, large black eye circles, chubby body, thick and short limbs, and a signature inwardly splayed gait, looking slow and lazy, how could Lin Feng not recognize it? But now, looking at this thing in front of him, there was only one thought in Lin Feng's mind. What the F *CK? Chapter 13:18. When he went to Mount Shu in the past, he had never seen it before. It was not recorded in the historical records, and it did not exist in the vast Tianwang mainland either. Lin Feng had thought that there was no such demon race in the great Tianyuan world, or that such animals did not exist. Who would have thought that he would actually see one today? And it was a demon race that had formed a demon infant. Although it had become a lot bigger, it still looked like a giant panda. Although it is often said that many things are not cute when they get older or bigger, but when they are young, they are very cute. However, there are always a few animals that still look very cute and charmingly naive, even if their body size and proportion are greatly enlarged. This guy in front of him was a typical example. What was even more outrageous was that after this lazy guy became a demon, his race magic power actually had a bit of charm. It was not the kind of charm that could make people fall head over heels for the opposite sex. Instead, it could affect one's soul imperceptibly, reducing the hostility of others towards oneself and innately improving one's liking. This kind of charm itself was not offensive, nor did it have any special purpose. It was natural and in harmony with heaven and earth. Therefore, others would be unknowingly affected by it without knowing it. At the very least, one needed to be at a higher cultivation level than him to be able to detect this abnormal state. Lin Feng naturally noticed it at the first moment, so he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Does this count as making use of one's specialty and strengthening one's innate advantage? Of course, Shi Tianhao was an exception. Goldie, whom he had raised, was also quite resistant to it. When it came in front of Lin Feng, the giant panda seemed to be a little more spirited. Its two eyes slightly widened, and it looked at Lin Feng in confusion. Well, that's right. That's it. Acting cute. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth twitched slightly again. Goldie, who was at the side, recounted the process of Shi Tianhao and the others discovering the demon to Lin Feng in detail. Lin Feng nodded when he heard it. It turned out that it lived in an independent medium-class world that had little contact with the outside world. Although this medium-class world was connected to the void battlefield, the void battlefield was special. There were many medium-class worlds that no one had ever been to before, and no one knew when they would suddenly find one. However, such medium-class worlds were often very unstable and could even collapse at any time. The stable medium-class world that the giant panda lived in, or the king of the underworld world that the underworld hall once occupied, belonged to the minority. Is it a race? Lin Feng thought to himself and sighed for a moment. Then he heard Huang Zhenting ask curiously, "Ancestral Master, what kind of demon is this?" After a short pause, he continued, "This demon can understand what we're saying. Master has asked them before, but they can't answer themselves. They can only call each other by their names, but they don't have a clear answer as to what kind of demon race they are." Speaking up to this point, Huang Zhenting also felt that it was somewhat funny. In their words, They were too lazy to care and had never come into contact with the outside world. Most of them only like to eat and sleep, sleep and eat. They don't even want to go out of the dimensional realm. This guy in front of me accidentally entered the void battlefield once and crossed the void thunder tribulation to become a monster king. But after that, he went back to his old ways and stayed there. When Lin Feng heard this, his mind went wild. Without natural enemies or other great dangers, how can this species evolve and develop? However, from the looks of it, they seem to be living a comfortable life. Things in this world are really indescribable. As he thought about it, Lin Feng said casually, this kind of creature, you can call it a giant panda, or a panda for short. Actually, it should be called a panda. Huang Jinting's face revealed a look of surprise. Ancestor, you really do know. However, they themselves don't have a name for their race. Lin Feng secretly curled his lips, but his expression didn't change. That's because they have never come into contact with the outside world. At the same time, they shouldn't have a primordial true spirit ancestor, so they can't have a monster soul bloodline inheritance. The giant panda in front of them had already become a monster and had even reached the Monster King realm. It opened its mouth as if it was yawning, but it also seemed to be talking to Lin Feng. Under the surge of divine sense, although there was a language barrier, Lin Feng and Huang Jinting could understand what it meant. It was as if there was a silly voice in their ears. I am the most powerful of our race. Its eyes widened a little as it looked at Lin Feng, waiting for praise, which made Lin Feng speechless. However, Huang Jinting said from the side, Ancestor, this fellow is really quite powerful, especially its physical strength. It is much stronger than many of the monster race, and its speed is also very fast. It also has a very strong devouring ability, but it likes to stay still and not move. Its temperament is also very gentle, and it doesn't like to fight. If it has a fierce temperament, it will definitely surpass many of the other monster race. You really can't judge a monster by its appearance. Lin Feng didn't say anything when he heard this. He could see the state of the giant panda's body and the fluctuations of its monster chi at a glance. It was also because of this that he was particularly speechless. Its bite strength was only second to that of a polar bear, and it was on the same level as a brown bear. Its running speed in the mountains, 2,000 meters above sea level, could surpass a certain person's top speed on flat ground. It could climb trees 20 meters above sea level, and it could use 3 or 4 wolves as a cushion to play with. Such a cruel creature actually relied on acting cute to survive. In Lin Feng's memory, he had once seen this description of a giant panda. Of course, it was referring to an ordinary giant panda. Lin Feng couldn't be sure if this description was true or if it was made up by someone who made it up. However, the heaven primordial world before him, this panda demon really embodied this description to the fullest. Not considering combat experience and other aspects, in terms of pure physical condition and demonic power waves, this cute guy in front of him was much more ferocious than the 9-clawed Eagle King, who was only one step away from the immortal demon soul. There was no need for them to compete. Lin Feng could tell at a glance. Disregarding everything else, the 9-clawed Eagle King, who was a bird species, didn't even have the upper hand in terms of flying speed. Well, of course, the premise was that the fatty before him wasn't so lazy as to fully unleash his speed. In terms of innate conditions, this fellow was better than many monster race. And this was under the condition that there was no primordial true spirit monster among its ancestors. Otherwise, its natural endowment would be even thicker. What's more, the fatty before him didn't even put in much effort to cultivate. Everything he did was natural. Although he had obtained the true essence of nature, in a sense, he was just relying on his natural endowment. If he could cultivate diligently like other top monster race members, his strength would be even stronger. However, such a ferocious fellow's natural supernatural power, in addition to strengthening the physical strength and the ability to devour food, was actually charming. In other words, it was acting cute. It's too shameful. Lin Feng shook his head repeatedly. Huang Jinting suddenly said, Ancestral Master, this giant panda's body is intertwined with black and white colors. It's a bit like the fusion of yin and yang. Lin Feng made a sound of agreement. That's right. This monster race uses techniques naturally. He was born with the fusion of yin and yang. It's just that he hasn't fully comprehended it yet. If he fully comprehended it, he would be able to form an indestructible monster soul. At that time, he might be able to form a new monster chi supernatural power. The yin and yang chi would revolve around his body to protect him and eliminate external attacks. After charming and adding a special defensive ability, there weren't many people in the same realm who could attack him. It was convenient for him to continue lying there lazily. The more Lin Feng spoke, the more he had the urge to pout. He looked at the giant panda in front of him. What's your name? In front of him, this giant panda was very obedient. It didn't have a lazy appearance and replied, I'm called Gun Gun. After saying that, its huge body really rolled on the ground, making Lin Feng want to roll his eyes. Gun Gun didn't stop after rolling. Instead, it continued to move closer to Lin Feng, as if it wanted to stay by his side. Others found them cute and couldn't bear to hurt them, but he felt that Lin Feng was very amiable. Lin Feng was well aware that this was because he had cultivated the book of Tao, Te Ching, to an extremely profound realm. The aura and concept of creation were very rich. His entire person was like the great Tao of creation, heaven and earth, making Gun Gun, who naturally admired nature, feel very close. Huang Jinting sighed in admiration and said, when he was in front of Master, he also looked like this. That's why when Master asked me to bring him back, he didn't resist at all. He was completely too lazy to resist. Lin Feng was angry and amused at the same time. An image appeared in his mind. Shi Tianhao was gesturing with his hands, wondering which part of this monster race he had never seen before was tastier. Meanwhile, Gun Gun was oblivious to its own situation and was even affectionately sticking to Shi Tianhao's side, acting cute. Huang Jinting continued. Master also said that they have the true meaning of nature. Although they don't seem to feel it, they are good at evolving the yin and yang qi. That's why they are called yin-yang bears or tai chi bears. But today I found out that they are actually called giant pandas. Hearing this, Lin Feng laughed dryly in his heart. Yin-yang bear, tai chi bear. Not bad. It seems like it's a lot better. While he was thinking, he suddenly heard Huang Jinting say excitedly, Ancestral Master, Master said that this kind of demon race is very suitable to be the mount of our sect's disciples. It's quite compatible with the Taiji diagram of the primordial spirit's incarnation in our sect's fundamental Taoist scripture. He said that this yin-yang bear called Gun Gun, no, it's a giant panda, is the most talented of the monster race. Its cultivation is still low, but in the future, when its cultivation increases, it will be suitable for Ancestral Master. Hearing this, Lin Feng was dumbfounded. Although he knew that this was Shi Tianhao's filial piety, when his own sage-like appearance appeared in his mind, with a charmingly naive giant panda sitting on his, but behind him from Shaoyan, Shi Tianhao, and the other direct disciples, to Huang Jinting, Tang Jun, Zhou Yunsong, and even Guozong Huang, Meng Honglu, Yixin Huwei, and the others, each of them riding on a giant panda. This scene was too beautiful. He really didn't dare to continue thinking about it. Lin Feng instantly had the urge to cry. This is too embarrassing. Chapter 1319. Looking at the elated Huang Jinting and the charmingly naive Raleigh, Lin Feng's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He really wanted to ask his disciple, don't you feel that something is wrong with this scene? Lin Feng sighed and patted Raleigh, then said to Huang Jinting, take it back to Heaven Desolate Valley and tell Xian Huang that if he likes it, he can use it as a mount. I don't have any use for it. The slightest possibility had to be eliminated while it was still in its infancy. Otherwise, his reputation would be ruined. Raleigh didn't seem to notice. When Lin Feng rubbed its head, it comfortably rubbed against him, its huge body like a small mountain. Huang Jinting jumped up again. Ancestor, ancestor, he took the initiative to let you touch him. Lin Feng resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Huh? Is there a problem? Huang Jinting swallowed his saliva. If we want to touch him, we have to feed him precious treasures. Otherwise, even if he doesn't resist, he will still dodge. On the other hand, as long as he fed him, he would let him touch him. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. Huang Jinting continued saying, "Speaking of which, this guy's teeth are really strong. I brought a piece of dark light meteoric iron with me earlier, and it was eaten clean by him in 2 or 3 bites. His saliva dripped on it, and it directly corroded through the dark light meteoric iron." Dark light mysterious iron was one of the 6 rare metals in the world. When forging weapons or armor-type magic tools, adding dark light mysterious iron could greatly improve the quality. The ore that Raleigh had swallowed was not raw ore, but a rough embryo that had already been mined and had undergone preliminary polishing. Its precision was extremely high, and even if Huang Jinting wanted to destroy it, it wouldn't be an easy task. Lin Feng looked at Raleigh and nonchalantly said, "This demon's saliva specializes in corroding metal, but it isn't as effective when used to dissolve other things." Huang Jinting smiled and said, "If we want to touch him, we have to feed him. Master is the only one who approached him without feeding him, and he didn't dodge. However, he didn't take the initiative to approach you like he did with your harvest." As Goldie spoke, it looked at Lin Feng with admiration and admiration. However, in the face of such a gaze from his own grand disciple, Lin Feng did not feel happy at all. He smiled bitterly in his heart. This is not something worth boasting about, is it? Subduing the white tiger or whatever is quite an achievement, but subduing such a lazy thing always feels really shameful. Huang Jinting said, "Ancestral Master, apart from this demon, Master found something else while searching for Senior Sure in the void battlefield. He ordered me to bring it back to the mountain and present it to you." As he spoke, he opened his palm, and a purple mass of air floated above his palm. The mass of purple qi originated from Shi Tianhao. It was a small spiritual sense world created by Shi Tianhao using his own magic power. In this spiritual sense pocket world, light and shadow flickered, containing some things. Lin Feng looked over and saw a long stone strip, which seemed to be about 2 feet long. The surface of the stone was engraved with some strange patterns that looked quite profound. The patterns were not complete, and the 2 ends of the stone strip were broken. It seemed to be a fragment of something. Apart from the stone strip, there was also a ring which was obtained from the Golden Rock Great Sage. It was a ring that could restrain you to beasts. Huang Jinting said, "Master said that he followed Ancestral Master's instructions and moved around with the ring. He inadvertently sensed it and found this stone strip." After Lin Feng's divine sense swept over the stone strip, his eyes flashed slightly. After thinking for a moment, he put the stone strip away. He said to Huang Jinting, "Bring this demon back to the desolate Sky Valley. As for how to deal with his kin in the dimensional realm, you could decide for yourselves." Even if they had to move their entire clan, these lazy fellows wouldn't care too much, right? As long as they had food, sleep, and no danger, they didn't seem to care about where they lived. Speaking of food and sleep, Lin Feng looked at Raleigh, who was snuggling beside him, speechless. They had only talked for a while, but this fellow had actually fallen asleep here. This demon is very fond of sleeping. I already knew that, but it actually fell asleep in front of Ancestral Master. It really doesn't care about the occasion. Even a usually carefree Goldie felt a little embarrassed at this moment. He hurriedly used his magic power to sweep up the giant panda in front of him, then said goodbye to Lin Feng and returned to the desolate Sky Valley. Lin Feng nodded expressionlessly. "It's fine. You can go." Of course, he knew that giant pandas were fond of sleeping and didn't like to exercise. They ate many times without stopping, and they used the time between meals to sleep. When they woke up, they would eat a new meal. In short, they slept after eating and ate after waking up. Lin Feng secretly curled his lips. Not long ago, this was also one of his dreams. After Huang Jinting left, Lin Feng took out the stone strip again. After pondering for a moment, he lightly tapped the air with his finger. Immediately, a formation appeared, flashing with a sparkling light. Lin Feng placed the stone strip and the ring into the formation. As the formation's light flowed, the two items instantly disappeared. At this moment, the Ying Ocean had returned to its usual calm. Layers of illusions were still intertwined, making it difficult to distinguish. White clouds covered the surface of the ocean, and it was as boundless as the ocean. Lin Feng and Xianmin Tianzong didn't prohibit others from entering the Ying Ocean. They only made some controls. Forces that were on good terms with Xianmin Tianzong could enter. As for those who were not on good terms with Xianmin Tianzong, even if Lin Feng allowed them to enter, they would have to consider it, especially the demon race. Demons were rarely seen in the Ying Ocean now, unlike in the past, where demons would often barge into the Ying Ocean through the realm passage that connected the East Sea to the vast Tianwang mainland. The current Ying Ocean was no longer a place they could easily step into. The three immortal mountains, Penglai, Yingzhou, and Fangzhong, had vanished once again. In addition to Penglai and Yingzhou, Lin Feng's Brontosaurus clone had also successfully refined the last immortal mountain, Fangzhong. However, it would take some time before he could completely control the Ying Ocean through the three immortal mountains. Lin Feng was currently dealing with that problem. The 9 Qi clones stayed in Penglai, the Brontosaurus clone in Fangzhong, and the Divine God of Battle clone in Yingzhou. The 3 clones worked together to refine the Ying Ocean through the 3 immortal mountains. Meanwhile, Lin Feng's main body stayed on Yujing Mountain to cultivate and comprehend the Tao. Previously, the Divine God of Battle clone had been invited to the southern wilderness to participate in the inauguration ceremony of the ancient country's capital, Longevity City. After the ceremony, he returned to Yujing Mountain with Xiaoyan. After settling down, he returned to the Ying Ocean and officially began the refinement. At that moment, on Penglai Mountain, Lin Feng's 9 Qi clone sat cross-legged. Light flashed in front of him, and a small formation appeared. The 9 Qi clone focused on the refinement and didn't get up. Instead, he reached out to receive the stone strips and rings that appeared in the formation. Zenith Heaven, Lin Feng called out softly. A tall youth that was meditating opposite Lin Feng got up and came to Lin Feng's side. Master Lin. This tall youth was Zenith Heaven Yudu. At that moment, he stood there with a body of flesh and blood. It wasn't an illusion formed by demon power or the power of the heavenly scarlet golden bead. It wasn't a 9 Qi clone like Lin Feng, but a true body of flesh and blood. When the war between the two worlds came to an end and the Yudu race was defeated, Lin Feng found the Yudu skeleton that was originally made by Golden Rock Great Sage. He extracted a portion of the essence of flesh and blood from the corporeal body of Yudu that he slew and fused it with the skeleton, finally reconstructing the corporeal body of Zenith Heaven. The current Zenith Heaven was no longer a soulless existence. Instead, he had become a living Yudu beast. His divine arts and magic power were extremely powerful, and his potential was astonishing. To the current Zenith Heaven, he didn't lack power at all. What he lacked was the ability to control the power he possessed so that he could truly use it for himself. Even so, the Zenith Heaven who had just reconstructed his corporeal body successfully ascended to the realm of the undying demon soul. He had been preparing all these years for this moment. The youth before him now looked exactly the same as when he was a human back then. It was the result of him transforming into a human. Lin Feng handed the stone strip to Zenith Heaven and said, "Zenith Heaven, silently sense it." Zenith Heaven took the stone strip, and purple light markings appeared on his skin. His consciousness and demon power flowed into the stone strip. At first, there were no changes to the stone strip. As time passed, it began to tremble slightly. However, from the outside, it looked the same as usual without any abnormalities. Zenith Heaven stared at the stone strip in confusion. "It seems to be connected to me, but it's faintly discernible. I don't think it's because the stone strip is broken or incomplete, but it's always been like that." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Bring this item and this ring to Yingzhou Celestial Mountain. Find Wanga and let her take a look at this stone strip." Zenith Heaven was a little confused, but he nodded and replied, "Yes, Master Lin." He then followed Lin Feng's instructions and quickly arrived at Yingzhou Celestial Mountain through the teleportation formation setup between Yingzhou Celestial Mountain and Penglai Celestial Mountain. Other than Lin Feng's God of War clone, his third disciple, Wang Lin, and sixth disciple, Li Yuanfang, were also there. While Wang Lin was cultivating there, he was also comprehending the unpredictable Tao of illusion in Yingzhou Celestial Mountain. Meanwhile, Li Yuanfang was further comprehending the nameless ancient formation on Yingzhou Celestial Mountain, verifying it with what he had learned. Apart from them, Meng Xian and Ning Wanga were also here. After the war between the two worlds ended, Ning Wanga met Lin Feng, and then she stayed on Yingzhou Celestial Mountain to cultivate. Seeing that Zenith Heaven had specially come to look for her, Ning Wanga's heart skipped a beat. She recalled what Lin Feng had said. "Perhaps I can help you regain your memories." As expected, when Zenith Heaven handed the stone strip to Ning Wanga stood rooted to the ground as if she had been struck by lightning. The colorful halos around her body began to twist and tremble. After a while, the colorful halos around Ning Wanga's body finally calmed down, and she came back to her senses. Lin Feng's God of War clone looked at her. Ning Wanga said in a daze, "The stone strip is broken, and the runes on it are incomplete. However, I'm sure that this item is related to me. Can we find something new with this stone strip as a clue?" Lin Feng asked. Ning Wanga came back to her senses and nodded. "Yes." Chapter 1320. Lin Feng's God of War clone pointed at the Grand Luo, standing at the side, and said, "This is my disciple. You could just call him Grand Luo. This stone slit is related to you, but it is also related to him. Both of you should use it as a clue and follow its directions to search for the place." Ning Wanga was indifferent to this and nodded. "I'm fine with it." She had a cold personality and was not used to interacting with others, but she was not averse to it either. The stone strip caused her heart to throb intensely. It was as if many things had surfaced in her mind, but they were all blurry and indistinct, making it difficult for her to see through them. Under such circumstances, she was certain that the stone strip was related to her missing memories. This matter was the only thing that bothered Ning Wanga, who did not care about anything else. The Grand Luo looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "Bring that ring with you and follow fellow Ning to the void battlefield. Now that you've successfully reconstructed your physical body, you can travel alone." "Yes, Master Lin." The Grand Luo bowed towards Lin Feng. Ning Wanga bowed and bade farewell as well. The two of them immediately descended the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain and left the Ying Sea. A human and a demon flew, breaking through the void and entering the void battlefield. Although the void battlefield was filled with danger, it was safe for the Grand Luo and Ning Wanga in most situations. Searching for someone or something in the void battlefield was like searching for a needle in a haystack. However, with a certain amount of clues in hand, the chances were much higher. The Grand Luo noticed that the stone strip, which did not seem to have changed much after he touched it, was now in Ning Wanga's hands. The patterns engraved on the stone strip lit up with a faint glow. The glow seemed to be the same as the multicolored light flowing around Ning Wanga's body, but the color and luster were much fainter. The Grand Luo became suspicious. Does this mean that there's some sort of connection between me and her? As he pondered, he flew in the void with Ning Wanga. The dark space before him flowed like a starry sky, brushing past the two of them. The feeling of reconstructing his body and being able to move freely in the void made the Grand Luo feel much more relaxed. He vaguely felt a sense of freedom. The confusion and distress that had been plaguing him previously also temporarily left him at this moment. Although he had a steady personality and had experienced many changes, he was still young at the end of the day. He still had the vigor of a young man. Ning Wanga also turned to look at Daluo. When Lin Feng mentioned that the stone in her hand had something to do with Daluo, she was also slightly surprised. She also wondered if Daluo had anything to do with her. However, Ning Wanga didn't think too much about it. She just wanted to use the stone to find new clues as soon as possible. By then, perhaps everything would be solved. As he flew, Ningwanga conjured a series of hand seals to activate the stone strip in his hand. As time went by, Ningwanga's understanding of the stone strips became clearer and clearer. The light flickering on the stone bar became more intense and dazzling at this moment. Gradually, the two ends of the stone strip began to emit light, forming a shadow. It seemed to be gradually mending the missing parts of the stone strip, causing the stone strip to gradually become whole. Noticing this, be it Grand Luo or Ningwanga, both of them perked up. Ningwanga didn't stop flying, but she closed her eyes. Most of her attention was focused on the stone strip. A moment later, she raised the stone strip. It floated in midair. It was about 3 feet long, and both ends are neat. The slender stone strip was engraved with lines of patterns. It looks like a horizontal railing that has fallen from a railing. Daluo mumbled as he looked at this scene. Ningwanga opened her eyes and looked at Daluo. "Fellow Taoist Daluo, please lend me a hand." Daluo nodded. Ningwanga put her hands together, and her entire body flashed with a colorful light stream. It was dreamy and illusory, and the light stream started to spread in all directions. These diffused streams of light gradually formed a haze of light, enveloping the slender stone. Ningwanga's figure gradually disappeared, and the spreading light fog started to retract, gushing into the stone strip. The appearance of the stone strip didn't change. It was still 3 feet long and about 2.5 inches in diameter. However, when Daluo looked at the stone strip, he had a different feeling. The stone strip seemed to have become extremely huge. It wasn't just huge in the sense of its appearance, but it seemed to contain endless mysteries. Purple light flashed in Daluo's eyes. He extended his finger and tapped on the stone strip. The stone strip instantly turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Daluo hurriedly sped up and followed behind the stream of light, shuttling through the void. After traveling for an unknown period of time, they even encountered intense void storms more than once. However, Daluo and Ningwanga were still able to identify the direction and continue forward. In the void battlefield, one couldn't tell the direction or the distance. It was as if there was no up or down, no left or right, and no front or back. The two of them flew all the way, breaking through the void, and suddenly stopped. Ningwanga fused with the stone strip and turned into a guiding stream of light. It started to circle in the void, and then wrote one strange talisman after another. These talismans intertwined together, gradually forming a huge door made entirely of light. The door suddenly opened, and rays of light shot out from it, isolating the void and forming a realm of its own. When Daluo was in this realm, he felt that the void was no longer chaotic. Up, down, back, forth, left, and right could be defined again. After constructing the door, the stream of light condensed back into a physical form, turning into the slender stone strip from before. Ningwanga's figure also reappeared. Ningwanga looked at the door before her and immediately walked in. Daluo didn't say anything and followed Ningwanga in. After entering the door, the light gradually dimmed, and in front of them was a slightly dark foreign space. In this foreign space, there was nothing but emptiness. In the distant horizon stood a palace. There were many fences around the palace. However, these fences were now extremely broken. Ningwanga tossed the stone strip, and it circled in the air before flying towards the palace and landing on a corner of the fence. The two ends of the stone strip were a pair and immediately became a fence on the fence. However, other than the stone strip, there were still many missing parts on the broken fence, and they were all scattered around. The palace in front of them also appeared old and dilapidated. Ningwanga stood in front of the palace, motionless, looking at it in a daze. The colorful radiance on her body, which caused only the shape of her body to be visible, gradually disappeared, revealing Ningwanga's true appearance. She wore a white palace robe, and her black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. After a long time, Ning Wanga let out a long breath. I've been here before, a very long time ago, but I can't remember the specific situation. She turned to look at Daluo, who was at the side, and realized that Daluo was also in a slight daze. Hearing Ning Wanga's words, Daluo came back to his senses. With a somewhat complicated expression, he said softly, "I've never been here before, but when I came here, I felt some trepidation." The two of them walked towards the main hall in the middle of the palace. When they reached the door, there seemed to be a slight breeze. With one step, they actually returned to the outside of the palace. Seeing this, Daluo raised his eyebrows. It's already so dilapidated, but there's still a secret technique formation operating. No, that's not right. It should be said that the formation's operation isn't affected by the palace's dilapidation. The formation doesn't completely depend on the terrain. Daluo quickly identified it. Ning Wanga, who was at the side, was in a slight daze. Then, she took another step forward. Her gaze seemed to have no focus, and when she took another step, she wasn't heading towards the palace's door. Seeing this, Daluo's heart skipped a beat, and he followed her using the same method. In the end, under Ning Wanga's lead, the two of them were indeed not as successful as in the main hall. After entering the main hall, they saw that there was only a ball of light in the middle of the empty main hall. That ball of light seemed to be a person sitting cross-legged in midair. However, looking closely, one could only see an outline and not the person's actual appearance. The person seemed to be in a state of chaos, hidden in the clouds. Seeing this, Daluo's pupils contracted slightly. He recalled the rumors about the demon race expert, the enchantress's appearance that was widely circulated. However, as this thought rose in his mind, Daluo felt his heart tighten slightly. He seemed to have some kind of connection with the human figure that was formed from the hazy ball of light. He turned to look at Ning Wanga and saw that Ning Wanga was walking towards the ball of light with a slightly dazed expression. Could this place be related to the enchantress? Daluo asked with a frown. Ning Wanga was slightly dazed. She answered as she walked. No, it's completely different from when I came into contact with her dermic powers in the Ying Ocean during the war between the two worlds. The heavenly enchantress dermic powers made me confused and uncomfortable, but this ball of light before me gives me a familiar feeling. Yes, familiar. She came before the ball of light and reached out her hand to touch it. Her body instantly trembled. The ball of light was just an illusion. With Ning Wanga's touch, it dissipated into specks of light dust, scattering in the air before disappearing. However, Daluo saw rays of light appearing on Ning Wanga's body once again. Scenes that had been covered in dust resurfaced in Ning Wanga's mind. A young girl on the brink of death. Her parents were killed by her enemies. She was also severely injured and seemed to be on the brink of death. An illusory figure that could only be seen but whose appearance was indistinguishable suddenly appeared before her, looking down at her. Silently, the figure looked at her. Suddenly, he waved his sleeve, and the scene before her changed. She followed the figure into a large hall. The furnishings in the large hall were very simple, but it was clearly the same as the hall that Ning Wanga and Daluo were in. The figure cast a spell to save the young girl on the brink of death. However, the young girl had already crossed the boundary between life and death. Her physical body was completely destroyed, leaving only a remnant soul. There was little hope of saving her. The young girl seemed to hear a soft sigh beside her ears. It belonged to a woman, ethereal and illusory. Chapter 13:21. Ning Wanga's eyes were lifeless as her thoughts were immersed in the images that appeared in her mind. She felt as if she had become that girl who was left with only a remnant soul. Looking at the figure in front of her, she could barely tell that it was a girl from the outline and voice. However, the girl seemed to be shrouded in a layer of blurry, chaotic colors, making it difficult to see her face clearly. The girl looked at Ning Wanga and reached out her hand. Light surged from her palm and enveloped Ning Wanga. Suddenly, clouds appeared and surged into her body. Ning Wanga felt that her body was becoming more and more corporeal, but her consciousness was becoming more and more blurry, as if she was about to fall into a deep sleep. The girl in the image in her memory fell into a deep sleep, while Ning Wanga's consciousness in reality became clear again and returned to the real world. Ning Wanga came back to her senses and felt her vision turning black. The images in her memory started to shatter, turning into rays of light and shadows that circled around in her mind. Light flowed in her eyes, turning into runes one after another that began to appear in the void in front of her. Daluo frowned slightly and looked at Ning Wanga. Ning Wanga let out a sigh. This is not the key place. Let's go somewhere else. Oh, from what you said, there are new clues. Daluo asked. Ning Wanga nodded. Light runes appeared in her eyes one after another. Following her gaze, it seemed to condense into a path that extended into the distance. These paths formed by the runes passed through the hall that the two of them were in, through this foreign dimension, and headed into the void in the distance. Ning Wanga and Daluo left the hall. Ning Wanga looked back and saw that because the light in the hall had dissipated, the entire hall was starting to deteriorate rapidly, as if it was about to turn into dust. She sighed softly. With a thought, a blurry light appeared and enveloped the entire hall. Being enveloped by the blurry light, the hall immediately stabilized and no longer shook. Although it still looked a little run down, Ning Wanga had no intention of making further changes. She only used her magic to protect the place and keep it the way it was when she first came in. Daluo stood at the side and watched this scene silently, not saying anything. After a short while, Ning Wanga turned around and left the precinct. Let's continue moving. After saying that, he headed in the direction of the path of light. On the other hand, Grand Luo followed behind her without a word and flew into the distance. We need to leave the battlefield of the void. Not far ahead, there should be a space barrier. We can leave the battlefield of the void from there, Ning Wanga said as he flew. The Grand Luo's expression changed slightly. Where do we go after escaping? Ning Wanga said, after we leave and return to the vast thousand world, there's a medium-class world in the void beyond the vast land of Tianwang. That should be our destination, but I don't know what exactly is there. Grand Luo mused to himself. A dimensional realm? The two of them continued forward, and when they reached a certain point, they suddenly stopped. Then, their magic power surged, and a strange crack instantly appeared on the chaotic yet fragile barrier of the domain. The void battlefield was chaotic and dangerous, but for Grand Luo and Ning Wanga, it was relatively easy for them to enter and leave the void battlefield, barring a few circumstances. It was just that it was still very difficult to find someone or something in there, but at least they could protect themselves. The two of them passed through the distorted and cracked dimensional passageway, and once again arrived at the vast thousand world. This time, they were on the east sea of the Divine Land. Already mentally prepared, the two of them immediately passed through the dimensional passageway that connected the two realms and headed to Tianwang Vast Land. After arriving at Tianwang Vast Land, the two of them continued forward and arrived at a certain place. Once again, they broke through the void and arrived at the endless void beyond the vast thousand world. That medium-class world was currently hanging alone outside the sky and was not connected to the vast thousand world, making it difficult for others to discover it. Only by relying on the clues and senses that Ning Wanga had obtained, the two of them managed to find the place. Looks like it's also a dilapidated world, and its situation is even worse than the foreign dimension from before. Grand Luo muttered, moreover, this medium-class world seems to have experienced a great battle. Ning Wanga nodded. That's right. The natural lifespan of this medium-class world should be very long. Now that it's so dilapidated, it's because there were powerful figures fighting here. The strength of both sides is enough to easily destroy this dimensional realm. But this dimensional realm should have some sort of protective array formation or spell. Although the array formation or spell has been destroyed, it still allows this dimensional realm to be preserved. Lin Ming sighed. As they analyzed the medium-class world before them, the two of them approached it. When the two of them attempted to enter the medium-class world, beams of light suddenly lit up before them, causing the void to distort. The medium-class world seemed to rapidly collapse into a single point and kept floating in the distorted void, making it difficult to determine its location. Both Gran Luo and Ning Wanga were slightly shocked and stopped in their tracks. In the distorted void, as the light shone, a series of Buddhist chants suddenly rang out. The light instantly turned into a glazed color, and the formless light seemed to have turned into a tangible solid, solidifying the surrounding void within it. Within the glazed Buddhist light and infinite Dharma appeared together, revealing waves of great purity, great liberation, great compassion, and great light Zen. Gran Luo and Ning Wanga looked over and saw the silhouettes of many monks sitting in the void, chanting incessantly. There were 2 monks in the lead. One was a withered and skinny old monk, and the other was a clean and handsome young monk. The 2 of them reached out their palms together, holding a ball of light in their palms. The light formed a world of its own, manifesting a boundless Buddhist land, countless stupas, and countless arhats and bodhisattvas. It was the great magical power of the Buddhist kingdom in the palm. The 2 monks used the Buddhist kingdom in the palm together. The 2 Buddhist lands were independent of each other, but in terms of power, they gave off the feeling that they came from the same source. The 2 seemingly separate worlds seemed to be the same Buddhist Pure Land. Golden lotuses spread out, filling up the void. The point where the medium-sized world had collapsed was within the Buddhist kingdom in the palm. It seemed to be gradually returning to its original state, no longer in a state where it could not be captured or touched. Above the 2 monks was a towering mountain. The mountain was extremely majestic and tall, as if it occupied the entire void. It was so huge that it was indescribable. Gran Luo thought of what Lin Feng had taught him all these years, and his brows rose. Mount Meru. The appearance of this towering mountain was the image of the number 1 treasure of Buddhism in the past, Mount Meru. When Mount Meru descended, it was as if no matter how tall an existence was, it would be suppressed to the point of lowering its head. No matter which direction it fled in, it would be difficult to escape the range of Mount Meru, and it would still be suppressed under the mountain. The huge mountain shone with boundless Buddhist light, and its entire body was transparent like glaze. The only strange thing was that there was an 8-feet-deep crater at the top of the mountain, but did not affect the power of this powerful creation treasure. The 2 supreme elders of Buddhism displayed their Buddhist kingdoms in their palms, fusing with the strength of Mount Meru. Because of this, a bizarre scene appeared. The 2 Buddhist kingdoms were clearly separated in 2 different directions, but they actually seemed to become one. Together with Mount Meru, they suppressed the dimensional realm in the void. That medium-sized world could no longer hide in the void, and so it opened up once again, turning into a medium-sized world that looked like a black sphere. On the surface of the black sphere, black and purple runes flowed endlessly, intertwining and moving. From within, an earth-shaking demonic power burst out, isolating the Buddhist light and preventing it from being refined. For a moment, both sides fell into a stalemate. Neither could do anything to the other, and they could only continue to pull back and forth. Seeing this, Ning Wanga could not maintain her calm expression. She looked around. This seems to be the battle that happened in this medium-sized world back then. For the light and shadow of the battle to remain until now, one can only imagine how intense the battle was back then. However, since it was a battle between Buddhism and humans, and Mount Meru still exists, then this is at least something that happened during the previous war between the 2 worlds, or something that happened before. Gran Luo said slowly, "I'm afraid it's something that happened during the previous war between the 2 worlds." Ning Wanga looked at him, and Gran Luo's gaze wavered slightly. The ritual restriction that was placed on that medium-sized world came from the Yudu race. Master Lin once mentioned to me that during the previous war between the 2 worlds, Buddhist cultivators received news from Taishu Temple and attacked the medium-sized world where Empress Nether lived. Their original intention was to stop Empress Nether here, but they didn't know that Empress Nether was pregnant at that time and was about to give birth. In the end, after a huge battle, the protective restriction wasn't broken, but Empress Nether was weak after giving birth, and her life force was used up in the stalemate, and she died. That was why Yohuang's army came to the Great Thunderclap Temple. Grand Luo looked at the medium-sized world in front of him, and his expression was slightly stunned. This medium-sized world is like the blackboard world that the Yudu race's capital city used, completely isolated from the outside world. It must be used to guard against the Taishu Temple's Haoyan mirror, but why was its location still determined by Taishu Temple? He walked forward step by step, and the light and shadow in front of him gradually dissipated. The void returned to normal, and the appearance of the medium-sized world appeared again. Ningwanga looked at Grand Luo worriedly, and followed closely behind him. The two of them entered this medium-sized world together, and the moment they entered, Grand Luo's body shook violently. Countless purple light patterns flashed in his eyes, and his black hair turned silvery white. Large amounts of silvery white hair also appeared on his back. 3 long horns stood on Grand Luo's forehead, and purple light patterns covered his body. The teeth in his mouth also became as sharp as a dragon's or a wolf's, and he uncontrollably reverted to his original form. Although Ningwanga also felt that there was a large amount of familiar aura in this medium-sized world, she was still slightly shocked when she saw Grand Luo's appearance. Grand Luo howled at the sky, and countless lights and shadows swayed in his eyes, forming images. After a long time, the howling stopped. Grand Luo's voice was slightly low, and it seemed to be emotionless. I was born here. Chapter 1322. Grand Luo's expression was calm, but his flickering gaze showed that he wasn't as calm as he looked. Instead, his emotions were like raging waves. Ningwanga looked at Grand Luo in shock. Connecting this to what Grand Luo had said, she couldn't help but have many guesses. Dao friend Grand Luo. Ningwanga felt her voice was a little dry. Grand Luo turned to look at her and smiled with an indecipherable meaning. To me, this is where I came from. Here, the memories that were sealed and worn away because of my many reincarnations have finally become clear. Ningwanga looked at Deluo, and Deluo looked around at the dimensional realm that the two of them were in. He muttered, "When I was born, my mother passed away. In truth, I have never seen what she looked like. But luckily, Father Emperor left some traces in my mind so that I can know what my mother looked like." A beam of light shot out from his right eye and condensed into a light image in the void. It was a blurry and chaotic figure. One could only see its silhouette, but it was hard to see its true appearance. Ningwanga's body trembled slightly. She looked at the figure and fell silent. Grand Luo's expression was also a little gloomy. The figure in front of them looked exactly the same as the light image they had seen in the hall in the foreign dimension. The fog gradually dissipated, revealing the figure of a woman. She was extremely beautiful, but there was a hint of stubbornness in between her brows. It made her look very heroic. She stood there, but she gave off a feeling of being erratic. It was as if her exact location couldn't be determined. She was ever-changing and omnipresent. Ningwanga looked at the woman, and a familiar feeling rose in her heart. However, she was also filled with confusion. Grand Luo looked at the woman in front of him, and his eyes revealed sadness. He said softly, "I was wondering how Taishu Temple could determine the location of this place. But now I understand. Mother isn't from the Yudu race. Although most people in the Yudu race have accepted her as Father's Empress, there are still a few who insist on the theory of pure blood. Their leader is Uncle Zhaoling." Ningwanga didn't say anything. Although she had been isolated from the world and lost many of her memories, she still knew some things that the world knew. De Ling was Yudu, the younger brother of Yu Huang, Celestial Sea. They were very close by blood. Before the war between the two worlds, he was a famous Yudu race that had declined in cultivation. After the war, he had gone missing. Everyone thought that Forsaken Mountain Range Yudu had gone into seclusion with the other Yudu, but in the war between the two worlds, Yudu race had returned to the boundless worlds, and forsaken mountain range Yudu still hadn't appeared. When Lin Feng had broken Yudu royal city with one sword, Beetle Ridge Yudu had never appeared. After the battle, it had even caused many speculations in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land. The mainstream view was that Devil Mountain Range Yudu had tried to experience the calamity and failed. Before Yudu could return to the Great Thousand, he had fallen in that dimensional world. Grand Luo said softly, "Uncle Forsaken Mountain Range was personally executed by my father in a fit of rage." Ning Wang sighed when she heard that. Grand Luo looked towards the distant dimensional world, but his gaze seemed to have no focus. After I was born, my father decided to send me into reincarnation using a secret technique. He also entrusted the hope of the Yudu race returning to the boundless worlds and controlling the spirit sea to me. I must have disappointed him. Grand Luo's lips twitched. He seemed to be smiling, but it seemed more like he was mocking himself. It's just I'm getting more and more lost now. Before today, although I was reborn as a demon, deep in my heart, I still saw myself as a human. Be it Grand Luo Yudu or Luo Yao, they were all me. A name was just a title. Although I know that Master Lin and I ruined my father's plan, I don't regret it. Grand Luo's gaze was complicated, but today everything has flooded into my mind again. I suddenly feel like I can't see clearly anymore. As a human, I don't think there's anything wrong with what I did before. I really want to say that my life is my own, and I don't need anyone to arrange it for me, not even my father who gave me life. The past life is the past life, and the present life is the present life. But is that really the case? Ning Wanga looked at Grand Luo hesitantly. Grand Luo seemed to know what she was thinking. He smiled and said with a calm expression, "There's no need to look at me like that. I've said before today, although I was confused about my identity, I don't regret anything I did, and I don't think I did anything wrong. Naturally, I don't blame Master Lin. On the contrary, I only have respect for Master Lin. Regardless of what happened in the past life, in this life, he was the one who made me." Ning Wanga didn't say anything. Although she was also confused about her own identity, she got along well with Lin Feng and Wang Lin before. Hearing Grand Luo's words, she couldn't help but feel worried. Dao Yuo continued, "Even at this moment, I still hold Master Lin in great reverence. To be honest, I've interacted with Master Lin far more than father and mother. I've never seen mother with my own eyes, and father only saw her once when he was a baby. However, I'm a little confused now. I betrayed father and the Yudu race's expectations. I don't know if I'm in the right or wrong. The determination that was once clear in my heart is shaken again." Ning Wanga asked, "Why are you telling me this?" Grand Luo shook his head. "I'm not looking for someone to talk to, but this has something to do with you, fellow Taoist." Ning Wanga suddenly felt something, and a shiver rose from the depths of her soul. Grand Luo said softly, "Master Lin once speculated that there was another executor besides me in father's plan. He was in charge of ensuring that nothing went wrong. After I reincarnated many times and got rid of the imprint in the spirit ocean, he guided me and finally completed the plan. This person really exists." Ning Wanga's breathing quickened slightly. Grand Luo looked at her and said in a low voice, "Once father died, because of the imprint in the spirit ocean, the rest of the race retreated into the blackboard world to recuperate and wait for the right time. The executor who stayed in the outside world to ensure that the plan went smoothly was Mother's disciple. Mother has always been mysterious, and so is her disciple. Very few people know about her, not just the Divine Land, but even in the vast, infinite wasteland. Within the Yudu race, other than father and mother, only a few people know of her existence. This way, she could hide in the dark and do things secretly without attracting attention. After all, after the Yudu race escaped into the blackboard world, no one could support her." Grand Luo paused slightly. However, for some reason, this senior sister of mine seemed to have completely forgotten about this. She forgot about it even more thoroughly than I, who had reincarnated many times. In the end, things became like this. If Master Lin hadn't met me, I would have continued to reincarnate. Ningwanga took a deep breath. You mean, that person is me? Grand Luo said, I'm not sure, but considering what you said before and what I recalled in the foreign space, my guess is that it is you. But why exactly? I'm not sure. Ningwanga sighed softly. Yes, what exactly happened? She continued to go deeper into this medium-class world. Grand Luo followed behind her, moving forward as well. It was a pity that this medium-class world was completely deserted. Although it was not completely destroyed, its spiritual energy was completely gone, making it hard for Ningwanga and Grand Luo to gain anything. In the medium-class world, there was another palace that was also ruined, but its scale was even more magnificent than the palace in the foreign space. As they moved through it, the colorful light on Ningwanga's body flowed in all directions, gradually enveloping the entire palace. Wisps of faint aura flowed continuously, finally flowing out from the corners of the palace and into Ningwanga's body. The light in Ningwanga's eyes grew brighter and brighter, gradually becoming more and more dazzling, and the palace began to show signs of collapsing again. Grand Luo said softly, Let this place return to dust, and let dust return to dust. Ningwanga looked at him and nodded. The light disappeared completely, and the palace began to collapse. As the palace collapsed, the entire medium-class world also began to gradually move towards destruction. Terrifying cracks spread and intertwined between heaven and earth, and it was on the verge of shattering. Ningwanga was the first to exit the pocket dimension. When he turned around, he saw the Grand Luo walking out slowly as well. Behind him, the pocket dimension was slowly collapsing and being destroyed. Grand Luo said, Looks like you've gained something new. Let's go. Ningwanga said, Perhaps you can return to Yingxi's Penglai Immortal Mountain and meet Sect Master Lin to sort out your thoughts. I've already told Master Lin what I've recalled and what happened just now through Transcendence Energy voice transmission. Grand Luo shook his head and said, It's true that I've already figured out most of the things I wanted to figure out here. However, I'll still follow you to continue searching. I'd also like to see if Mother left anything behind back then. Ningwanga did not say anything else. As she changed her hand seals, rays of light lit up in her eyes, continuing to point into the distance. Seeing that the light kept on distorting in the void space, as if it had fallen into disorder, but it continued moving forward into the darkness, Ningwanga and Grand Luo understood. Are we going to enter the void battlefield again? The two of them flew together, breaking through the void realm once again and stepping into the sky sea, which was the most chaotic of the 7 seas of Tianyuan. This time, the two of them encountered a void storm head-on, stirring up the space into a state of chaos. Even with their transcendence and transcendence energy, they had to put in all their effort to ensure their safety. However, after breaking through the void storm, the two of them got back on track and continued towards their goal. However, due to the void storm, their sensory abilities were affected to a certain extent. When they resumed their journey, they could not help but frown and look to the side. In a space far away, there were waves of transcendence, energy fluctuations. There were humans and demons fighting. Ningwanga retracted her gaze after taking a glance, but Grand Luo's gaze narrowed slightly. Chapter 1323. Grand Luo looked into the distant void, and the first thing he saw was a familiar face. When he was young, that middle-aged man had given him plenty of help and guidance. Later on, if he hadn't been hunted by the dragons, he would have most likely become that man's disciple. That person was called Muyu, the successor of the East Sea Luofu Immortal Island and the disciple of Tao Venerable Luofu's second disciple, Huang Ming. Among those with Muyu was his master Huang Ming, his great-uncle master, the eldest disciple of Tao Venerable Luofu, and the other primordial spirit cultivator of the Luofu Immortal Island, He Quamping. Grand Luo had never seen Huang Ming in person and had only seen his image through Muyu. However, He Quamping had seen him in person. It wasn't a beautiful memory. When Grand Luo, Muyu, and the others were hunted by the dragons, Grand Luo was killed, and he was reborn as Yudu through the heavenly golden bead, shocking all the dragons present. He Quanping, who was late, saw this scene and tried to bring Grand Luo back to the Luofu Immortal Island. The killing intent hidden in his heart provoked Grand Luo, who was in chaos at the time, and both sides almost fought. Since then, Grand Luo never returned to the East Sea, nor did he reunite with Mu Yu and the others. Many years had passed since then. All these years, Grand Luo had stayed on Mount Penglai, not interacting with the outside world, living a solitary life. While he felt lost about his past and future, he would often think about the past when he was Luo Yao, a human cultivator who couldn't be any more ordinary. Although his cultivation was low and his horizons weren't broad, his life was simple, ordinary, and happy. In the span of a single day, his fate had undergone an earth-shattering change. Even someone as composed as the origin heavenly immortal would often sigh afterward. He often missed Mu Yu and the others, but he didn't know how to face them now. Now that he suddenly saw them, he couldn't help but be shaken. He Quanping was still in the primordial spirit incarnation realm, and Huang Ming was still in the later stages of the Yuanying realm. Although their cultivation was the highest among the group, Luo Yao only glanced at them once before looking away. His attention was mainly on Mu Yu and another person. She was still dressed in green, and her light golden hair was still like the first rays of dawn. Her hair was fluttering in the dark void, and it was simply tied up with a silver ring. Although she had successfully formed the golden elixir, and her age was far from that of a young girl in the past, her appearance was still the same as in his memories. She was Mu Yu's disciple, Yunjinsi. She had grown up on the same island as Luo Yao, and they had known each other since childhood. This time, he was probably following He Quanping, Huang Ming, and Mu Yu into the void battlefield. Not only was he training, but he was also going to collect some unique treasures from the void battlefield. This group of people were all descendants of Dao, Lord Luo Fu, from the Luofu Immortal Island. Their cultivation base, divine abilities, and Dharma spells. However, they were currently in danger. The danger did not come from the void battlefield, but from the demon clan that surrounded them. Shockingly, they were a few Jade Dragons. The leader of the group was a Jade Dragon that had attained the indestructible demonic soul stage. Its name was Dark Azure Dragon King. Back then, his son was killed by Huang Ming and Mu Yu. The dragon blood was used to refine the 9 cycles of void and real golden elixir. This caused him to be furious, and he commanded the Dragon Clan under his command to kill Mu Yu and the others. This hatred had not been resolved until today. Now that they met again, Dark Azure Dragon King naturally attacked again. Apart from the Jade Dragons in the Demon King realm under his command, there was also the Yellow Dragon King, who had also attained the immortal Demon Soul realm. The Yellow Dragon King had always been on good terms with him, so it naturally lent him a hand at this moment. In the previous war between the two worlds, the Dragon Clan had actually been extremely aggrieved, and now was a good time to vent their anger. The Yellow Dragon King entangled He Quanping, who was in the primordial soul stage, while Dark Azure Dragon King had pounced on Huang Ming, Mu Yu, and the others who were in the Yuanying stage. He Quanping and the others entered the void battlefield not without any preparation. After all, this was one of the few natural dangerous places in the great Tianyuan world. Before entering the void battlefield, for their safety, Dao Master Luo Fu lent his disciple an incarnation level magic treasure and brought it into the void battlefield. Now that He Quanping had given up on using the Dharma treasure himself, he gave it to Huang Ming and the others to protect them. Fortunately, Huang Ming and the others could barely hold on, but the situation was still precarious. After all, Huang Ming, who was in the late Yuanying stage, could not fully unleash the power of the Dharma treasure. Facing Dark Azure Dragon King, it seemed like he would be destroyed in an instant. Mu Yu, Yunjinsi, and the others followed behind him, their eyes faintly revealing despair. Seeing this scene, Grand Luo sighed. His figure turned into a purple flowing light and walked in the void. When he released his demonic power, Dark Azure Dragon King, Hequamping, Muyu, and the others were all shocked. Then they saw a huge Yuta beast step through the void and slowly stretch its body out. Its aura was extremely terrifying. Whether it was Dark Azure Dragon King, the Yellow Dragon King, or Hequamping, they all felt their hearts tremble when facing the Yuta beast before them. What the hell? Why would Yuta beast suddenly appear here? And its divine arts and demonic power are so strong. Dark Azure Dragon King cursed in his heart, but he tried his best to maintain a calm expression. He stopped what he was doing and said carefully, "How should I address you?" Although the dragon race and the Yuta race weren't on good terms, when the Yuang race ruled over Infinite Wasteland, at least the dragon race dared to leave the Shanhai Sea. However, at the end of the war between the two worlds, because the human race had a greater advantage in victory, they continued to push forward in Tianwan continent. To curb the situation, the dragon race, Yudu race, and the primordial devil ape race worked together to a certain extent to stop the human race's advance. Now, the relationship between the dragon race and the Yudu race wasn't good, but facing the pressure brought by Lin Feng and the Divine Land, they restrained their emotions and wouldn't easily start conflict. I can hand this primordial spirit realm cultivator to you, but these Yuan-ing humans killed my son and used his blood to refine medicine. I won't let them off. I will personally kill them. As Dark Azure Dragon King spoke, the Yuta beast in front of him let out a low growl. It didn't reply and just casually waved its claw. 5 shrill purple cracks immediately appeared in the void. As the cracks twisted, they almost stirred up a void storm in the void battlefield. Seeing how a casual strike from the other party had such powerful power, Dragon King Tanxing and that Yellow Dragon King's faces turned extremely ugly. Even if it's the Yudu race, how can an undying demon soul realm have such power? With the pride of the dragon race, even if they faced an opponent stronger than them, they wouldn't retreat. However, there was a limit to everything. When the opponent was so much stronger than them, making all their efforts a joke, the dragon race wouldn't just send themselves to death. They would at least put their lives on the line to see hope. However, the hatred of his son was irreconcilable. Even if he faced Grand Immortal Realm, Dark Azure Dragon King's face was black, and he didn't plan to retreat. However, another Yellow Dragon King came over and stopped Dark Azure Dragon King. If they fall into the hands of this Yudu, they will still have to die. Even though you can't personally kill your enemy, it could be considered as revenge. There's no need to die with these humans. Let's go. Dragon King Tanxing gritted his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. The Yellow Dragon King forcefully swept his stiff body away, and the other dragons hurriedly followed. Their departure didn't make Hequamping, Huangming, Muyu, Yinjinsi, and the rest relax. Just the 2 great demons of the dragon race, Dark Azure Dragon King, were enough to put them in a precarious situation. They were about to be killed on the spot, and even though the dragons had retreated, they were replaced by an even more terrifying great demon of Yudu. Despair rose in Hequamping's heart. If it was said that the Yudu race had secluded themselves for over 4,000 years, the new generation of cultivators in the Divine Land didn't have a direct understanding of the terror of this terrifying demon race. Then after the war between the two worlds, even if the cultivation world of the human race won, everyone had experienced the terror of the Yudu race once again. If it wasn't for Xian sect master Lin Feng saving the world with 4 swords and wiping out the demons, the final result of the war would be unimaginable. Yudu descending once again and trampling on Taiwan Mountain and White Cloud Mountain was like a calamity descending from the sky. The terrifying scene of covering the sky and covering the sun was engraved in everyone's heart, and it didn't fade away for a long time. It was true that within the Yudu race, different Yudu beasts on the same realm had different strengths. There were those that far surpassed their peers, and there were also those that were relatively mediocre. However, even those relatively mediocre existences were extremely terrifying nightmares to the demon race and human cultivators outside of Yudu. Just like Dragon King Tanxing, Hequamping and the rest also saw the 5 claw marks that didn't heal even after a long time. How could they not realize that the Yudu beast in front of them was an extremely terrifying existence, even in the Yudu race on the same realm? It even surpassed their imaginations. How could they not feel despair? However, as the Yudu beast walked forward step by step and came in front of them, the purple light gradually faded, and the silver-white fur on its body also gradually vanished. Its huge body shrunk as it walked forward, and it finally returned to the size of a normal person. Even though it was taller than a normal person, it was still within the range of a normal person. When they saw that familiar yet unfamiliar face, Muyu and Yunjinsi were slightly stunned, and complicated expressions appeared on their faces. Muyu's gaze was filled with the joy of reunion, as well as the relief of seeing an old friend safe and sound. It warmed Great Luo's heart. Even though it was unavoidable that Muyu's gaze carried some caution and wariness, Great Luo wasn't surprised. Even though he had transformed into a human and his appearance hadn't changed, he was no longer the youth that Muyu had seen grow up with his own eyes. Great Luo was already very happy that he couldn't see any hatred or fear in Muyu's gaze. However, when he met Yunjinsi's gaze, the light in Great Luo's eyes dimmed. That gaze contained deep fear and wariness, as well as obvious hostility and rejection. Everyone looked at each other in silence. Great Luo didn't say anything, and after a long time, he sighed softly. Chapter 1324. Grand Luo bowed to Muyu. Senior Mu. Muyu looked at him with a complicated expression, and after a long time, he sighed. Luo Yao, you are now, I'm indeed a Yudu beast, Grand Luo said calmly. My name is Grand Overarching Yudu, but you can just call me Luo Yao. Grand Overarching Yudu is me, and Luo Yao is also me. He smiled. I have been cultivating by myself all these years, and it's the same now. Although my people have returned to the boundless worlds, I have no intention of finding them. The expressions of Muyu and the rest changed slightly. Is that true? You didn't return to the Yuta race? Seeing everyone's doubtful gazes, Grand Luo said calmly, That's right. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the human race. As you can see, I can already control my demon power, and I won't lose control like I did back then. He Quamping used his magic power to transmit his voice to Huang Ming and Muyu. Back then, Master received some news from Taishu Temple that this Yuta beast in front of us might be related to Xianmen Tianzong. He hasn't been seen for all these years, so maybe he landed in the hands of the Master of Xian Gate. However, for some reason, he seems to have regained his freedom. Or maybe the Master of Xian Gate never imprisoned him. When Huang Ming and Muyu heard that, their expressions didn't change, but they were astonished. Could Xianmen Tianzong be related to the Yudu race? He Quamping said, There's no evidence to prove it. If what this little Yuda B said is true, and he isn't related to the Yuda race, then he might be like White Tiger Great Sage, Lu Yuan Great Sage, and Black Whale Great Sage, if he's living in Xianmen Tianzong. Muyu hesitated. Taishu Temple also has the Grand Supreme Dragon Pond to raise the dragon race. Even if Luo Yao is related to Xianmen Tianzong, as long as he isn't related to the Yuta race, it shouldn't matter, right? In this war between the two worlds, it's all thanks to the Master of Xian Gate that we were able to save White Cloud Mountain and defeat the Yuta race. Huang Ming's gaze was slightly deep. What if Yudu clan and Xianmen Tianzong were originally working together, and everything was planned by them? He Quamping said, Let's not talk about how the Yudu race is as proud as the dragon race. How could they give up their prestige and victory to help the Master of Xian sect? If they were really on the same side, according to the situation of the war between the two worlds back then, they could have completely swept through Heaven Origin World and brought the Divine Land and Heaven Wasteland under their rule. Silently, Huang Ming said, Who knows if they have other plans? No one knows why Yudu race went into seclusion back then, and there might be some secrets that even Master doesn't know about. Or maybe both sides had a tacit understanding, but the Master of Xian Gate went back on his word. In the end, Yudu race was also schemed against by the master of Xian Gate, resulting in a huge loss and Xianmin Tianzong becoming the only winner. He Quanping frowned and said, "Junior brother, be careful with your words." Huang Ming nodded his head. "Let's not talk about the fact that I don't have any evidence on hand. It's just my speculation. Even if there was evidence, I naturally wouldn't spread it around. Right now, Xianmin Tianzong is so powerful that even Taishu Temple has sealed themselves. Even if this is the truth, no one can do anything to them now. Even if Taishu Temple comes out again and commands the Divine Land to suppress Xianmin Tianzong, they might not succeed. Instead, it would benefit the demon race for nothing. Furthermore, in the Divine Land now, most of the powers are leaning towards Xianmin Tianzong. Even if my speculation is correct, it's hard to say how many powers will break off relations with Xianmin Tianzong and become enemies." When he said that, Huang Ming laughed at himself. Before this, their Luofu Celestial Island had also gradually built a friendly relationship with Xianmin Tianzong. If he hadn't seen Zenith Immortal Realm today, he wouldn't have made such a guess. He Quanping frowned in silence, while Mu Yu looked startled. Although He Quanping and Huang Ming were Mu Yu's master and Mu Yu's martial uncle, Zenith Immortal Realm only nodded in greeting. He took Lin Feng as his master, and with Lin Feng's current status, even Dao Lord Luofu couldn't be on equal footing with Lin Feng, even though he called him fellow Taoist. Zenith Immortal Realm was very respectful to Mu Yu because they had taught each other in the past. But between Mu Yu's elders, both sides treated each other differently, especially when He Quanping had attempted to kill him back then. Although things had changed with the passage of time, and Luo Yao didn't plan to pursue it, it was naturally impossible to say that both sides were very friendly. Zenith Immortal Realm could sense the transcendence energy transmission between He Quanping, Huang Ming, and Mu Yu, but out of respect for Mu Yu, he didn't intercept the transcendence energy transmission. Mu Yu came back to his senses and looked at Zenith Immortal Realm, asking seriously, "Luo Yao, have you ever killed anyone?" "Oh, I mean attacked the human race." Zenith Immortal Realm shook his head. "Never." He looked in the direction where Dragon King Tan Xing had disappeared. "Actually, after we parted ways, today is the first time I've fought. Before this, whether it was the human race or the Yao race, I've never fought with them, and even if I came into contact with them, it was very little." Zenith Immortal Realm's tone was calm, but Mu Yu and the others could faintly sense the bewilderment in his words, as well as the bone-deep loneliness. Huang Ming transmitted to Mu Yu, "Ask him where he has been all these years, and if he has become a disciple of the Mystic Gate's master." Hearing this, Mu Yu's gaze was somewhat hesitant, but he didn't say anything. Zenith Immortal Realm vaguely sensed Mu Yu's emotions, but he didn't know why. Seeing Mu Yu silent, as if he had some misgivings, Zenith Immortal Realm sighed inwardly, glanced at He Quanping and Huang Ming, and said no more. Looking at Yin Jinsi, he said with a smile, "Speaking of which, the nickname you gave me back then has now become my name." He purposely eased the atmosphere, dispelling Yun Jinsi's wariness and hostility towards him now that he was a Yao. Hearing this, Yun Jinsi's expression relaxed a lot. Although she was relatively inexperienced, the fact that Zenith Immortal Realm had scared off 2 Dragon Kings who had attained the undying Yao Soul Realm was enough for her to understand that although the youth in front of her looked the same as before, the changes that had happened to him could be said to be world-shaking. And now, Zenith Immortal Realm was standing in front of them without any hostility. This could be clearly sensed. Zenith Immortal Realm looked at the crowd, hesitated for a moment, and asked, "Daoist Chao didn't come with us this time?" He sensed with his spiritual perception that there were no changes in the blood qi nearby. When they were attacked by Dragon King Tan Xing and the other dragons, no one in Mu Yu's group should have died. However, as soon as he said this, Zenith Immortal Realm immediately sensed that something was wrong. He saw a layer of sorrow appear in Yun Jinsi's eyes. She looked at Zenith Immortal Realm with a complicated gaze. Mu Yu sighed at the side. In a conflict during the war between the 2 worlds, Jindong couldn't avoid it in time and died at the hands of the Yao race. He paused for a moment and then continued. 3 years ago, Zhendong and Jinxi got married. Zhendong died, and she felt terrible. Chao Zhendong and Yun Jinxi were both his disciples. Like Zenith Immortal Realm, he had watched them grow up. Chao Zhendong's early death had also made Muyu feel rather sad. Zenith Immortal Realm opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Chao Zhendong's death had nothing to do with him, and it had nothing to do with the Yudu race. Muyu clearly had no intention of blaming him, and even he Quanping and Huangming would not feel enmity towards him because of this. However, looking at Yun Jinxi's expression, it was clear that her thoughts had been stirred. Her originally relaxed spirit became intense once more. The wariness and enmity in her gaze towards Zenith Immortal Realm intensified once more. Her gaze was like a scorpion's tail that stung Zenith Immortal Realm, causing the light in his eyes to flicker. The scene sank into silence once more. After a long time, Zenith Immortal Realm shook his head and said softly, "Jinxi, take care." He cupped his hands towards Muyu. "Senior Mu, I'm truly surprised to see you again today. However, I have something to do now, so I'll take my leave first. I hope we'll meet again in the future." Muyu took a look at He Quanping and Huang Ming, then cupped his hands as well. "You take care too. Don't. Sai, forget it. I see that you're mature and steady now. You'll be able to walk your path well in the future, so I won't say anything more. Just take care." Zenith Immortal Realm nodded and turned to escape through the void. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a beam of purple light and vanished. Muyu looked at his departing figure and sighed. He turned to Huang Ming and bowed. He Quanping also sighed and turned to look at Huang Ming. Don't blame Muyu. His relationship with that Yudu beast isn't shallow, after all. It's all thanks to that Yudu beast that we're safe this time. Huang Ming was expressionless. He shook his head and didn't say a word. He turned to fly in another direction. He Quanping said to Muyu, "Get up." Muyu got up silently and looked at Yun Jinxi. The master and disciple looked at each other without saying a word. He Quanping spread his magic power and swept everyone from the Luofu Immortal Island away. Then he also headed in the direction that Huang Ming had left. The void, which had just erupted into a huge battle, instantly regained its calmness. On the other side, Zenith Immortal escaped through the void. In a flash of light, he had already arrived beside Ningguang. Ningguang stood in the void and looked at Zenith Immortal Realm. She felt that his emotions seemed to have changed subtly. Ningguang's personality was leisurely and indifferent. He wasn't in the mood to know what others were thinking. He immediately went on his way again. In his eyes, divine patterns paved the path and guided the way. Zenith Immortal Realm silently walked side by side with Ningguang. His eyes flickered slightly before gradually returning to calmness. In his heart, he felt that things were still the same, but people had changed. It was hard to recall the past. Something's wrong. Ningguang suddenly stopped. Zenith Immortal Realm frowned slightly. What's wrong? Ningguang looked at the void in front of him and said softly, "They should have already arrived, but I can't sense any traces of them." Zenith Immortal Realm looked over and saw that the light flow in Ningguang's eyes was gradually dissipating. The divine patterns that had paved the path were scattered in the surrounding void. Ningguang blinked and gently performed a spiritual art. Then, rolling light spread out in all directions. In the dark void, fog suddenly spread out, shrouding Zenith Immortal Realm and Ningguang within. Seeing this, Zenith Immortal Realm's expression became solemn. He opened his mouth and let out a long roar. Dense purple light patterns appeared on the surface of his skin. Arcs of purple light spread out in all directions and kept vibrating in the fog. With his agitation, the fog gradually turned black. It was a black that seemed even darker and deeper than the dark void. Chapter 1325. Inside the black fog, Zenith Luo felt his body gradually becoming heavier. He could not feel that the black fog was causing him any harm, but his demonic power and supernatural powers were becoming more and more sluggish, unable to circulate smoothly. At this moment, Zenith Luo suddenly felt distracting thoughts growing in his mind, causing him to be unable to maintain a clear mind. After experiencing what had just happened and learning about his past, the confusion and contradictions in his heart seemed to be magnified limitlessly at this moment, making him even more confused. He felt like he was surrounded by endless troubles, and he wanted nothing more than to destroy everything, including himself. The encounter with Mu Yu, Yun Jinsi, and the others just added to his troubles in this aspect. His own understanding and position had always been disturbing Zenith Luo's state of mind. The estrangement between him and his old acquaintances made him feel even more lonely. For a moment, it was as if the entire world and all living beings were rejecting his existence. A violent emotion rose from the bottom of his heart, evolving into a desire to destroy all living beings, to destroy the world, and to destroy himself as well. While Zenith Luo was in a frenzy, he was also shocked. He forced himself to calm down and turned to look at Ning Wanga, who was beside him. He saw that Ning Wanga was in the same state. Her beautiful face, which had always been distant and indifferent, was now filled with confusion and struggle, making her look rather ferocious. Other than being ferocious, Ning Wanga's face was filled with a demonic glow, and a creepy smile appeared at the corner of her mouth from time to time, making her look exceptionally strange. Colorful streams of light kept flashing on her body, spreading to the surroundings and shaking the black fog. However, the black fog did not dissipate, as if it was not affected in the slightest. While Ning Wanga's eyes were filled with confusion, a hint of clarity would occasionally flash through them. At this moment, she turned to look at Zenith Luo, who was beside her, and saw that Zenith Luo was in a similar state as her. Both of them were alert at the same time, forcefully suppressing their own emotions, and then continued to traverse through the black fog. It's not the illusory transformation technique, but it's shaking and twisting our state of mind and will, Ning Wanga said. Zenith Luo nodded, purple divine light surging in his eyes, turning into strange incantations that took the shape of strips, spinning around his body. Zenith Luo was not speaking human language, but various incomprehensible sounds, as if he was chanting an ancient incantation. This was the origin heavenly heart mantra inherited from the heavenly Tao demonic scripture. It had a powerful effect on suppressing one's mental state. Yudu race was similarly violent and bloodthirsty, but that was on the premise that they could control themselves. They definitely wouldn't leave such an obvious flaw for the enemy to exploit, and that was how Origin Heaven Heart Curse was born. Streaks of incantations turned into violet ribbons of light that revolved around Grand Luo's body, gradually keeping the black mist at bay. While there was still a large amount of black fog seeping in, the Grand Luo could already stabilize his mind. Ning Wanga, who was at the side, was also in the same situation. She was proficient in the art of illusory transformation, so the strength of her soul and the stability of her state of mind were superior to cultivators of the same realm. However, because of her previous gains, she was currently seeking to unravel the knot in her heart. She was on the verge of understanding it, so her state of mind was especially unstable. Thus, under the attack of the black fog, it was extremely strenuous. This was not something that Zenith Heaven could help her with. Ning Wanga could only rely on herself to stabilize her state of mind and keep her beer pure. As the two of them continued to advance in the black fog, they could also feel that the black fog's ability to contaminate them was getting stronger and stronger. Zenith Heaven could clearly see that more and more black fog was breaking through the Origin Heaven Heart Curse's barrier. The two of them steadied their minds and continued forward. After the appearance of the black fog, the light in Ning Wanga's eyes became focused again. A large number of divine patterns gathered together and formed a beam of light, guiding the way in the darkness. Following the guidance of this beam of light, Zenith Heaven and Ning Wanga wouldn't be completely lost in the black fog. After walking for a while, the scene in front of them changed. A huge door appeared in the void. The door was as black as ink, and there were many relief sculptures carved on it. These sculptures stretched out from the surface of the door, and all of them had hideous faces. Their movements were distorted, and they gave off an unnatural and uncoordinated feeling. Just looking at these relief sculptures made Zenith Heaven and Ning Wang's state of mind even more restless. The door shone with a faint black light that extended into the void. It was as if it had existed since ancient times, and had always been there until now. Zenith Heaven stretched out his hand and tried to push the door, but it didn't open. He frowned slightly, and the purple light patterns on his palm surged as he tried to push the door, but it still didn't budge. Zenith Heaven let out a low roar, and silver white fur suddenly appeared on his body. His huge tail swayed behind him, and circles of light flowed continuously on the 3 long horns on his head. Large amounts of purple light patterns vibrated in the void. He pushed the door hard, and the door that seemed to have existed since ancient times also shook at this moment, shaken by Zenith Heaven. Seeing this, Ning Wanga also pressed her palm on the door. The black door shook even more violently, and cracks started to appear on its surface. However, seeing this, Zenith Heaven and Ning Wanga both retracted their strength, not daring to continue pushing the door. They could tell that opening the door in front of them required skill. Otherwise, no matter how strong their strength was, they would only be able to destroy the black door at most, but not open it. The black door wasn't their goal. What was behind it was the key to their search. The result of destroying the black door was just a moment of pleasure. They might never know what was behind it. The two of them looked at each other and started to retreat. With Ning Wanga's light flow as a guide, they retreated along the path they came from until the light flow gradually disappeared. Although they were still shrouded in the black fog, Zenith Heaven was not flustered. The purple light in his eyes became even more dazzling, and the triangle on his head became even brighter. A majestic splendor that shocked all worlds appeared at this moment. In the face of this splendor, even the black fog that seemed to be the most profound existence in the world trembled. The splendor grew brighter, and the darkness before them retreated. The world gradually turned purple. The great Tao, Dharma, and logos intertwined, and the entire world seemed to be changing continuously. When the purple light gradually dissipated, the black fog disappeared as well. The world before Zenith Heaven and Ning Wanga changed back to the world within the void battlefield. There was only the dark void before them, and the boundaries in the distance kept distorting. The space opened up, and waves of void storms were stirred up. Zenith Heaven and Ning Wanga stood in the void. Both of them did not move and were focused. Streams of illusory yet solid black smoke rose from their bodies and then dissipated. When the black smoke completely dissipated, Zenith Heaven and Ning Wanga heaved a sigh of relief. Ning Wanga frowned. That feeling just now was so strange. It was clearly left behind by the activation of demonic power, but this method seemed a little like the cultivation method of human demonic cultivators. Zenith Heaven said in a low voice. There were traces of Mother circulating demonic power, but there were also the cultivation methods and secret arts of human demonic cultivators. The two fused, and that's why the situation just now happened. Ning Wanga looked around. The guidance shouldn't be wrong. The problem also lies in that black demonic door. Zenith Heaven thought for a moment and said with uncertainty, those methods feel a little like the primordial demon cult's ancient book that Master Lin once mentioned, the primordial demon scripture. Ning Wanga said, during the Middle Era, including the primordial demon Lord Jiang Zhaoyang, a large number of experts from the primordial demon cult died in the hands of Yuang Heaven Sea. Jiang Zhaoyang was only able to escape because of the wonders of the primordial heart demon curse. However, the primordial demon cult's vitality was greatly damaged, and their creation treasure, the primordial golden ship, was completely destroyed. In that battle, maybe Yuang obtained some of the primordial demon cult's inheritance. Although he didn't cultivate it, he was used by Empress Yuang in the future. At this point, Ning Wanga's eyes became a little unfocused. She said softly, "In that foreign space, the scene I saw, the figure who cast a spell to prolong my life, the ritual he cast seemed to contain some similar principles, methods, and concepts of power." When Zenith Heaven heard this, he nodded slightly. "Maybe it's really Mother's doing." He looked at Ningwanga. Ningwanga shook her head. "I don't know if it's because I've lost my memories, but I can't break it. I also don't know any demonic cultivation methods." Zenith Heaven said, "To avoid acting rashly and destroying that black door, let's contact Master Lin." It was inconvenient to communicate with the outside world in the void battlefield. It was hard to use voice transmissions using magic power or voice transmission crystals. However, it was precisely to guard against such a situation. Before Zenith Heaven entered the void battlefield, he left his 9 chi clones outside. Before this, he had done an experiment. His main body and the 9 chi clones' wills were always connected. After Zenith Heaven reported the situation to Lin Feng through the 9 chi clones, Lin Feng was also slightly surprised. After pondering for a while, he transmitted his voice to Wang Lin. "Little Lin, you should make a trip to the void battlefield. It's not convenient for your main body to make a move while cultivating. Just send your heaven-carrying great devil true Lord Xianxin clone over. To you, this might be an opportunity." Among Lin Feng's disciples, Xiao Yin, Shi Tianhao, and Yu Hongyan had all dabbled in demonic cultivation methods. Zhu Yi had even deduced many demonic cultivation methods. However, the one who had the deepest understanding of demonic cultivation methods was undoubtedly Wang Lin. As long as Wang Lin was willing, with the support of his heavenly Tao scripture, he could even temporarily transform all his cultivation methods into the foundation of demonic cultivation. Be it the underworld demon sect, the reincarnation sect, the king of the underworld, or even the primordial demon sect, the outside world would not be able to see any flaws. After hearing Lin Feng's instructions, Wang Lin did not waste any time and immediately nodded. "Yes, Master." His main body did not move. Instead, on Jade Capital Mountain, Lin Feng's main body summoned a starry ocean gate. After the gate opened, a tall figure stepped out from within, wearing heavy armor that was as heavy as stone but flickered with layers of starlight. It was Wang Lin's great devil clone that was wearing the ancestral crocodile divine armor. Its terrifying and powerful chi and blood, as a martial expert who surpassed the Tao integration realm and the ancestral crocodile divine armor that was already a Mahayana-grade treasure, Wang Lin's great devil clone merely stood there and gave off a terrifying feeling of shaking the world and tearing the void apart. The great devil clone bowed towards Lin Feng's main body and then arrived on Mount Penglai in the Ying Ocean through a spatial formation. Lin Feng's 9 chi clone and the Zenith Heaven's 9 chi clone flicked their fingers at the same time. The great devil clone opened its mouth and swallowed the 2 streams of clear chi. Then it left the Ying Ocean and broke through space, heading towards the void battlefield. Chapter 1326. Daluo and Ning Wango waited on the spot. Both of them were a little out of sorts. Their inner demons had been triggered, and their minds were filled with distracting thoughts. What they had experienced with the Netherworld Empress had given rise to countless thoughts, and they were still appearing in their minds. However, the two of them were at peace now. They were able to control their thoughts and gradually sorted out everything that had happened. After a long time, the void suddenly trembled. Daluo and Ning Wanga looked in that direction and saw the space crack open. A tall figure appeared from within. That body seemed to be 100,000 feet tall, towering between the heavens and the earth. Even the endless void, one could feel its size. It was Wang Lin's great devil avatar. 2 streams of clear air could be seen moving in the nostrils of the great demon clone as he breathed. There was a faint 9-colored radiance flowing within the clear chi, which was connected to the Grand Luo's body. Wang Lin had clearly found the location of the Grand Luo and the others in the void battlefield through these two clear chi. After the great demon clone appeared in the void, he walked towards Daluo and Ningguang. As he walked, his figure gradually shrank until he was about the same height as Daluo. Daluo cupped his hands towards Wang Lin. Senior Brother Wang. Although he was Lin Feng's half-disciple in name, and had never formally acknowledged him as his master, and his actions never crossed the line, Wang Lin and the others all treated him differently. They had always treated him as a fellow disciple, and as time went by, Daluo started addressing them as senior and junior brothers. Ningguang saw Wang Lin and nodded. Fellow Taoist Wang, thank you for coming to the void battlefield. Wang Lin looked at the two of them and slowly said, It's fine. I'll gain something myself. I should be thanking you for giving me this opportunity. Standing in the void, a bright light suddenly appeared in the eyes of Wang Lin's great demon clone. It was just that this radiance was incomparably evil. After looking at it, one's heart would twist and feel incongruous, only feeling uncomfortable from head to toe. Wang Lin's great demon clone specialized in physical martial arts, but it was not completely different from spells. It stretched out its hand and wrote talisman after talisman in the void. Daluo and Ningguang did not waste time either, and each pointed. Demonic power and magic power surged in the void, and dense fog appeared in this space again. The fog quickly turned black and enveloped the three of them. Wang Lin sensed it for a moment, and a red light flashed in the great devil avatar's eyes. Other than the monster race's cultivation method, it does contain a shadow of the human race's devil Dao cultivation method. His great demon clone was forged from the bodies of many heaven-carrying ants and the Avicii demon statue of the primordial demon cult. On the forehead of the great demon clone, there was a Tai Chi pattern of yin and yang merging and spinning. Now, the Tai Chi pattern disappeared, and a vertical third eye gradually appeared on the forehead. Slowly, the third eye opened, and blood-red light rolled in it. The great demon clone, which was already ferocious and tyrannical, now exuded an even more ferocious and evil aura. It was clearly dignified, but it gave off a twisted feeling, as if it wanted to destroy all good things in the world, as if it was a calamity born from heaven and earth. Let's go, said the great demon clone. In the black fog, his three eyes flashed with red light, and he did not seem calm, but the vertical third eye on the forehead was clearly absorbing the black fog slowly. Under the infusion of demonic chi, the great demon clone's aura grew stronger and more ferocious. However, Wang Lin could clearly still control his mind, and Ningguang and Daluo also calmed their minds. Then, the light in Ningguang's eyes reappeared, turning into lines of divine patterns that paved a path for the three of them. The three of them followed the light and moved forward. Soon, the pitch-black demonic door appeared before them again. Wang Lin's eyes lit up when he saw the demonic door. He reached out his hands and placed them on the door. The door shook visibly, and the dark light flashing on the door became even deeper. Outside the battlefield, on the immortal mountain of Ocean, Wang Lin's body shuddered and opened his eyes. Lin Feng's God of War clone sat with his legs crossed and eyes closed, still refining the Ying Ocean. However, he could also sense Wang Lin's changes. Lin Feng did not open his eyes and asked calmly, "How is it?" Wang Lin's eyes flickered as he answered in a deep voice. As junior brother Daluo said, apart from the techniques of the monster race, the foundation of that place also contains the techniques of the human race's primordial demon cult. Lin Feng asked, "Is it the primordial heart demon curse?" Wang Lin shook his head. "I can't be sure yet. I'll have to push the door open to find out." Lin Feng smiled. "If that's the case, let's do it." In the battlefield, Wang Lin's great demon clone unleashed his power and inserted it into the pitch-black demonic door in front of him. At that instant, the demonic chi in the surroundings began to rumble silently like waves, heading toward the great demon clone and the pitch-black demonic door. The menacing carvings that protruded from the demonic door strangely shrunk back, causing the surface of the door to become flat. However, even though the door had become flat, and the figures with twisted movements and menacing expressions had disappeared, the entire door seemed to be even more twisted and chaotic. The conflicting feelings almost caused the spectators to lose their self-control and go crazy. Wang Lin's great demon avatar also began to change. His facial features began to gradually disappear. On his face, his nose and mouth disappeared. Even his two normal eyes disappeared without a trace. On his bald cheeks, there was only a single vertical eye between his eyebrows. At that moment, Wang Lin's great demon clone had no facial features and no expression to speak of. However, the vicious and evil aura had reached an unprecedented peak, as if it was the most evil existence in the world. In the chaos, there was only that vertical eye in the face. The vertical eye's light reached its peak, like the ancestor of evil that was born from the primordial chaos at the beginning of the world. The power and intent that the great demon clone displayed made one shudder. It was like the first product of the beginning of the world, not the creation of all things, not the living beings of the world, but extreme evil. It was both the beginning and the end, without distinction between the past and the future. After the birth of this demonic thought, there was the creation of the world and the birth of all things. Thus, all things in the world could become demons, and become demons. Thus, demons were everywhere, walking with all things and perishing together with the world. Wang Lin let out a long sigh. It was neither good nor evil, neither happy nor angry. As he sighed, the dark light around the demonic door suddenly retracted and gathered on the demonic door. The next moment, the demonic door opened. A gap appeared on the door. Wang Lin pushed the door open and felt its weight. Zenith Heaven, who was experiencing the power and intent within, pressed his palm on the demonic door. Slowly, the door opened. Seeing this, Ning Wanga nodded to himself. With demonic power, the human race's demonic arts. The door was pushed open completely, and behind it was another world. In that world, there were mountains and lush vegetation. It was like a paradise on earth. However, the strange thing was that this world was formed by black and red. Everything in the world was formed by black and red, and no other colors could be seen. The three of them walked through the door, and the door closed. Wang Lin tilted his head slightly and did not care anymore. The face of the great demon clone still had no facial features, only a vertical eye in between his brows. He, Zenith Heaven, Ning Wanga, and the others walked deeper into this world of black and red. Ning Wanga's footsteps became slower and slower. She looked around, and her eyes were filled with uncertainty. Wang Lin's expressionless face turned over, and the third vertical eye in between his brows looked at Ning Wanga. "Did you find anything? I seem to have been here before. Every blade of grass and every tree here feels familiar to me." Ning Wanga took a deep breath and calmed herself down. She slowly said, "I seem to have seen this before." Wang Lin nodded. "That means we're in the right place." Ning Wanga closed her eyes. After a while, she opened them again and walked ahead. This direction, Wang Lin and Zenith Heaven did not object, and they both followed behind her. In this world, there was also a palace. After Ning Wanga entered the palace, she walked faster and faster and seemed to be getting more and more familiar with this place. The group passed through the back hall, and a huge altar appeared in front of them. Seeing this altar, Ning Wanga was instantly stunned, as if she was struck by lightning. Wang Lin and Zenith Heaven looked over and realized that the altar was actually built with many demon skeletons. After a simple analysis, they saw that there were dragon skeletons, true host skeletons, demonic ape skeletons, Kuin, Pung skeletons, and various other demon skeletons. These skeletons were all twisted into very unnatural postures. They looked the same as the relief sculptures that appeared on the surface of the demonic gate in the beginning, full of disharmony. Together, the skeletons formed an altar that was close to 10,000 feet tall. Although it did not look big in hall after the space had changed, and it did not touch the top of the hall, it still gave off a shocking feeling. The palace and altar were also alternating between black and red, forming a contrast between light and dark, looking exceptionally evil. Ningguang stared at the altar in a daze, unable to speak for a long time. Meanwhile, Wang Lin's attention fell on another matrix not far from the altar. In the center of the matrix, there were some fragments of something scattered, and these fragments attracted Wang Lin's attention. Ningguang came back to her senses and turned to look at Wang Lin and Zenith Heaven. She, who had always been indifferent and indifferent, now had a solemn expression and even a hint of fanaticism. I want to go to the altar. My feeling tells me that I will know everything that happened to me there. With that, Ningguang floated up, landed on the top of the altar, and sat cross-legged. When Ningguang sat on the altar, the entire altar shook, and waves of demon power shot up into the sky. Suddenly, billowing white clouds appeared, surrounding the altar. In a world that only had black and red, a different color finally appeared. Chapter 13:27. White smoke rose up and enveloped Ningguang and the skeleton altar. Ningguang didn't panic at all. He was still sitting on the top of the altar with his legs crossed. He looked calm, and his eyes were closed. A different color finally appeared in the world formed by black and red. However, it was only limited to the white smoke. The other parts of the hall where the three of them were still black and red. Wang Lin scanned the area with his divine sense. Seeing that Ningguang was fine, he retracted his divine sense. He turned to Dao Yuo and said, "Junior brother Dao Yuo, please help protect him. I will take a look at the formation over there." Light and shadow flickered over his body, and the rock-like heavy armor separated from him. Light surged from within the armor, and an extremely majestic, burly man appeared. He donned the armor, and it was the origin spirit of the ancestral crocodile divine armor, which had already reached the Mahayana stage, the crocodile god. Wearing the ancestral crocodile divine armor, the crocodile god stood outside the array with a solemn expression. Silently, he looked at Wang Lin's great demon avatar standing in the center of the array. Wang Lin trusted Grand Luo. He separated the ancestral crocodile divine armor from his body because it would make it easier for his great demon avatar to analyze the fragments. Grand Luo looked at the white smoke and was slightly lost in thought. Hearing Wang Lin's words, he came back to his senses and nodded. "Senior brother Wang, please go ahead. I'll pay attention to the surroundings." After saying that, he did not look in the direction of the altar anymore. His eyes became calm again. His demon power and divine sense spread out in all directions, gradually covering the entire hall. Seeing this, Wang Lin walked to the array. The vertical eye between his brows stared at the fragments in the center of the array. These fragments, scattered in the center of the array, looked like pieces of crystals. In this black and red world, they appeared black. However, Wang Lin could faintly feel that this was the original color of these crystal fragments. Although the array patterns were still there, they were already broken and could no longer be used. Only the shape was left. Looking directly at these crystal fragments, he could faintly feel some spiritual power aura. Wang Lin sat cross-legged and picked up a fragment. It looked ordinary. Wang Lin injected his magic power into it, but the fragment did not move. The featureless, expressionless face of Wang Lin's great devil avatar remained calm and without a ripple of emotion. However, the red light in the vertical eye between his eyebrows grew increasingly dazzling. Silently pondering for a moment, the red light in Wang Lin's vertical eye suddenly turned black. Then this black light shot out and landed on the crystal shard. The fragment trembled, and an unusual scene gradually appeared in Wang Lin's sea of consciousness. A huge abyss seemed to appear in front of him. Within the abyss, there were tens of thousands of demons roaring. Demonic chi soared into the sky, covering the entire world in darkness. Wang Lin calmed his mind and walked towards the bottom of the abyss step by step. Demonic chi spread to both sides, and many demonic creatures and devils were restless in the abyss. Everything seemed to be warped, strange, and filled with unnaturalness, causing others to shrink back at the sight of it. Just one glance was enough to make one have the urge to go crazy. It was as if a group of demons was about to tear his spiritual sea into countless pieces. And at this moment, being immersed in it caused one's heart to tremble and find it hard to maintain their composure. Wang Lin let out a violent roar. His entire aura was like that of a group of demons, bloodthirsty and crazy, chaotic and violent, twisted and hideous, cruel and evil. He seemed to be happy to sink into the sea of demons and become a part of the abyss. But in Wang Lin's heart, he guarded his spiritual sea, maintaining a clear mind. He knew exactly what he was doing. Like this, he walked forward step by step in the abyss, devouring demonic chi and the demonic creatures that approached him. He became stronger and stronger, becoming the most powerful of all the demons. At this moment, Wang Lin's body was completely twisted beyond recognition. He was tall and thin, and his two legs were like bamboo poles, one long and one short. At this moment, he no longer had two arms. Instead, he was like an octopus with many arms extending out in all directions. They were of different thicknesses, and one of the thickest was even larger than his torso. His head had already disappeared. Only a single eye could be seen on his chest and abdomen. It opened its bloody mouth and let out some meaningless syllables as it madly roared. But as Wang Lin walked forward step by step, his body began to change again, gradually returning to its original appearance. In the end, although his entire body was extremely large and he was tens of thousands of feet tall, his body proportions had completely returned to that of a normal person. Only his face could not be seen. There was only a vertical eye between his eyebrows that shone brightly. At this moment, Wang Lin's body was not as terrifying as before, but the ferocious and violent aura he exuded was even stronger. Even the demons in the abyss bowed their heads and retreated, not daring to approach him. Wang Lin went all the way to the bottom of the abyss. The scene changed. The chaotic and twisted demons and all sorts of sceneries disappeared. Everything returned to normal. However, just like the pitch-black demon gate that had changed when they entered from the outside, the scene that seemed normal and orderly now contained a distorted feeling that made them feel even more uncomfortable. It clearly looked normal, but everything seemed to have been turned upside down, so much so that it was filled with a contradictory feeling that it was being torn apart. At the bottom of the abyss, there were figures moving. These figures sensed Wang Lin's arrival and turned to look at him. At this moment, Wang Lin seemed to see many of himself. All of the figures looked exactly the same, just like Wang Lin's great devil avatar. Their faces were blank, with no facial features. They were expressionless, filled with chaos. However, there was a single eye on their foreheads that stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin was unmoved. He continued forward, heading deeper into the abyss. Those featureless faces silently watched Wang Lin's movements with their single eye between their eyebrows. No one tried to stop him, no one tried to strike up a conversation, but no one looked away either. All of them coldly watched as Wang Lin continued forward. As Wang Lin walked forward, he felt like this abyss was like an upside-down spire, and as he walked down, he felt like he was climbing to the top. When the scene in front of him changed again, Wang Lin suddenly felt an intense pain from his brow. The pupil of the vertical eye between his eyebrows became unfocused, and blood oozed out of the eye socket, flowing down the featureless face. This vertical eye seemed to gradually disappear at this moment, and pus and blood gushed out from it. One of his eyes seemed to have turned into a mournful scar. Outside Wang Lin's divine sense, in the hall in reality, Grand Luo and Crocodile God were staring at Wang Lin's great demon clone anxiously. In reality, the black crystal in Wang Lin's great demon clone's hand suddenly turned into a stream of light and shot into the vertical eye between Wang Lin's brows, blinding it instantly. The vertical eye turned into a terrible scar. Blood flowed out from it, and the wound kept twisting as black rays of light shot out from it. Grand Luo and Crocodile God were confused seeing this. They quickly went forward, trying to lend Wang Lin a hand. However, at that moment, Grand Luo's 9-Chi clone on Mount Penglai in the Ying Ocean suddenly heard Lin Feng's voice transmission. Grand Luo, don't touch him for now. Wait and see. On Mount Penglai in the Ying continent, Lin Feng's God of War clone opened his eyes and looked at Wang Lin's main body. At that moment, a crack appeared on Wang Lin's main body's forehead. The crack twisted as it tried to widen, and black rays of light shot out from it. Lin Feng looked at Wang Lin silently. Wang Lin closed his eyes and said, "Master, I'm fine." In the void battlefield, Wang Lin's great demon avatar sat motionlessly. But he reached out a finger, and the other black crystal fragments in the formation fell in front of him. Then they turned into streams of light and flew into the vertical crack between his eyebrows. Grand Luo and Crocodile God stared at Wang Lin's great demon clone solemnly. Meanwhile, in the great demon clone's sea of consciousness, the vertical eye between his brows had completely turned into a long and thin crack as he continued to advance deeper into the abyss. As soon as the crack appeared, Wang Lin felt as if he had been reborn. He continued to move forward, heading towards the deepest part of the abyss. As he moved forward, the faceless, expressionless face gradually changed. It was no longer blank like before. The facial features reappeared, and Wang Lin's appearance changed back to that of himself. The only difference was the vertical crack between his brows. It was pitch black, and there was a faint red light flashing in its depths. At that moment, Wang Lin's monstrous demon shook the entire abyss. Behind him, the demons with vertical eyes and featureless faces all bowed at his back. Wang Lin himself felt as if he had completely turned into a demon among demons. Even his consciousness and concept had changed completely. However, he still maintained the last bit of clarity in his heart. He was not lost, not confused, not changed, and not confused. As Wang Lin walked on this path, he seemed to see other figures on the road. There were far fewer of these figures than the demons he had seen before, but they were all much more powerful. Each of them looked like a normal person, but their expressions were a little colder and more apathetic. The only thing they had in common was the vertical crack between their eyebrows. Wang Lin frowned slightly as he looked at these people. He had never met some of them before, but he had seen images of them in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land. The blissful demon, Sovereign Shu Yingzhan, the terminating demon, Sovereign Guokai, the massacred demon, Sovereign Kongjua. Wang Lin narrowed his eyes. All he could see were the leading figures of the demon path who had stirred up waves in the Divine Land during the Middle Era, the peak experts of the primordial demon cult under the command of the primordial demon Lord Jiang Zhaoyang. On this path, there were people walking at different speeds. At the end of the path, there was a dazzling white light. As far as the eye could see, there was only a vast expanse of whiteness. It was not dazzling, but it made people tremble from the depths of their souls. Chapter 1328. Wang Lin looked at the end of the road in front of him, at the white light that made one's heart palpitate. Not only him, but everyone on the road was staring at where the light was and walking towards it step by step. Wang Lin could feel that he and these people seemed to be in a different time and space. He could walk on this road without any obstacles, while the others on the road seemed to be walking on the same spot. Passing by one person after another, Wang Lin came to the side of the two people closest to the white light. These two people stood side by side, looking completely different. One was a young monk with a jade-like face. He looked solemn, pure, and full of wisdom. Even though there was a vertical crack in the middle of his eyebrows and the raging devil will, it still did not disturb the benevolent Zen that flowed out of this monk. The benevolence of Buddhism and the evil of devil sect seemed to be perfectly fused on him. However, when Wang Lin saw the monk's appearance, he immediately thought of a light portrait that he had seen before. The Great Lane Temple's Wu Bei divine monk was publicly recognized as the most outstanding successor of Buddhism after Gautama went to the Dead Sea, and the death of the top 10 disciples. He was known as the seven ancestors of Saha and brought hope to Buddhism. However, Wu Bei, who had high hopes placed on him, later entered the devil path and joined the primordial devil Lord Jiang Zhaoyang. He received the title of Demon Lord Wu Bei, and later generations were used to calling him Demon Buddha Wu Bei or Demon Monk Wu Bei. In the past, Wu Bei betrayed Buddhism and joined the devil path. It was one of the greatest disgraces in the entire history of the Great Lane Temple, as well as the biggest scandal. After that, during the final battle between the righteous and the devil path in the Middle Era, he was defeated by the then Taishu Temple's Supreme One Tao Lord. He killed his way back to the Great Lane Temple and fought a bloody battle in the Great Lane Temple. In the end, he died. When he passed away, he was not arrogant, nor was he remorseful. His expression was serene, and without a word, he turned into 81 black demonic relics. Beside Devil Buddha Wu Bei, there was a tall woman. Wu Bei was tall and slender. He was already much taller than ordinary people, but this woman was even taller than Wu Bei. She had a head full of hair that was as hard as iron. On her somewhat beautiful face, there was a terrifying scar on the left side of her face. The scar ran from the left side of her forehead all the way down, destroying her left eye. It went across her cheek all the way to her chin. The scar was long and wide, completely disfiguring her. The existence of this scar made this tall woman look like she was filled with an iron-blooded, murderous aura. Streaks of blood-red light flashed within the scar, making her look ferocious and terrifying. The strength of this woman's demonic technique was not inferior to the devil Buddha, Wu Bei, who was beside her. Although it was not as smooth and profound as Wu Bei's, its attack power was stronger, and its evil and murderous nature was more intense. With her cultivation, it wasn't difficult for her to heal the scar on her face under normal circumstances. There were only two possibilities. Either the foundation of her great Tao was damaged by someone, or it was her own will. The image of this woman was also widely circulated, and her reputation was not inferior to Wu Bei. It was because she was the #1 killing god under the primordial devil Lord Jiang Zhaoyang, massacred demon venerable Kong Zhua. The primordial golden ship, the sect treasure of the primordial devil cult, was usually controlled by Kong Zhua most of the time. Her reputation as a killing god was known throughout the world. In the past, she had a great battle with the sect leader of the Shushan sword sect, Sword Venerable Green Lotus, Zhang Mu, and her name would go down in history. In his lifetime, his hands were stained with blood. He fought against demons, fought against humans, fought against demons, fought against the primitive devil cult, and killed countless experts. In the end, he died in the hands of Yu Huang Heaven Sea during the war between two worlds. Demon Venerable Wu Bei and Massacred Demon Venerable were the two strongest experts of the primordial devil cult after Jiang Zhaoyang. At this moment, they were also the closest to the end of the path. Wang Lin looked back and knew that this was the uniqueness of the primordial devil cult's devil path. It manifested the level that the experts of the primordial devil cult had reached in the past on this path. It wasn't the magic power of Kong Zhua and the others. The various kinds of devils from before were also in the same situation, and the source of the scene before him was the white light at the end of the path. If Wang Lin completely immersed himself in the devil path, then his figure would also be projected on this path. Depending on the depth of his attainments in the devil arts, his position would be determined. But now, he guarded the bit of clarity in his heart and didn't truly transform into a devil. With his Xianmen Tianzong heavenly virtue scripture as his foundation, he could move freely in the abyss. He didn't truly belong here, but he could move forward here. Wang Lin's state of mind was calm. He passed by Demon Buddha Wu Bei and massacred Demon Venerable Kong Zhua and continued forward. Then, he stepped into the white light in front of him. As soon as he entered the white light, Wang Lin's body and mind shook violently. He almost couldn't guard the last bit of clarity in his beer. Wang Lin's mind was extremely firm. The Tao technique he cultivated was also an expert in this aspect. Therefore, Even the supreme heart devil couldn't shake his mind. At the current cultivation realm, for Wang Lin, the heart devil couldn't be extinguished and was everywhere, but could be cut down and disappeared. Unless Wang Lin intentionally left it for cultivation, it wouldn't leave a trace in his beer. But at this moment, Wang Lin felt that his state of mind was unstable. What made his state of mind unstable wasn't the heart devil, but his emotions and thoughts. At this moment, there was a huge change. At this moment, Wang Lin vaguely felt as though there were countless thoughts surging into his mind. The past, present, and future seemed endless. It wasn't that Wang Lin could read minds and understand the changes in other people's hearts. But at this moment, everyone's thoughts seemed to be Wang Lin's own thoughts and consciousness. Wang Lin's face, which had already stabilized, changed again. His appearance kept changing, turning into the appearance of many people. He seemed to have seen some of them in his memory, but most of them were completely unfamiliar. And the vertical crack in the middle of his eyebrows actually started to heal gradually. Beams of white light shone into the crack, and the red light in the crack started to dim. It wasn't suppressed or eliminated, but it gradually turned into white light. And during this process, the crack gradually closed and disappeared. Although the speed was very slow, it was really happening. Wang Lin forced himself to calm down, but he still felt that it was all in vain. Not to mention the great fiend avatar in the void battlefield. Even Wang Lin's body on the immortal mountain in the immortal abode sea began to tremble violently. The crack on his forehead kept distorting. When Lin Feng saw this scene, he narrowed his eyes slightly. He raised his hand and extended a finger, pointing at Wang Lin's glabella. However, halfway through his finger, Lin Feng stopped again. He retracted his finger and continued looking at Wang Lin silently. At the next moment, Wang Lin's body suddenly opened its eyes. The endless light in his eyes vanished, and he shed his human form, transforming into the essence soul embodiment of the netherworld Taiji diagram. There was a crack in the middle of the Taiji diagram that kept twisting. The red light in the crack gradually turned white. However, Wang Lin's essence soul gradually stabilized. In the void battlefield, in the consciousness of Wang Lin's great fiend avatar, his state of mind also stabilized. In the vast white light, Wang Lin looked ahead and saw an elegant middle-aged man standing there. His hair was dyed with stars, but he did not look old at all. His facial features were handsome, and he had a demonic charm like that of a god-fiend. He stood there with his hands behind his back. As if sensing Wang Lin's changes, he turned slightly and looked at Wang Lin. Looking at the middle-aged man, Wang Lin's pupils constricted slightly. There was nothing special about this person. He did not reveal any demonic chi at all, nor did he give off a malevolent and twisted feeling like other demons. He was not violent, crazy, or bloodthirsty. It was as if he had merged with the creation of heaven and earth and everything in nature. He was extremely harmonious. Looking at him, there were no traces of demonic techniques at all. The only exception was that there was a small black hole between his eyebrows that shot out faint white light. At that moment, the white light that filled the void in front of him was actually shooting out from that small hole. Wang Lin knew that it wasn't a small hole, but rather a huge crack, just like the one that had appeared outside. However, the vertical crack between the middle-aged man's eyebrows was constantly healing, so the crack gradually disappeared. Only the last bit had not completely healed, so it looked like a small hole. This middle-aged man was undoubtedly more famous than Wu Bei, the Devil Buddha, and Kong, which were the slaughtering demon venerable in the human cultivation world of the vast land of the divine land. The leader of all demons, the leader of the primordial demon cult, primordial demon, Lord Jiang Zhaoyang. Most people did not know that Jiang Zhaoyang had fallen into the netherworld sea in the past and had returned to the colossal world during the Middle Era. Therefore, almost everyone knew that Jiang Zhaoyang was known as the #1 human cultivator of the Middle Era. Jiang Zhaoyang turned his head to look at Wang Lin, and Wang Lin looked at him calmly. In those eyes, there seemed to be thousands of lights flashing at the same time, originating from a single point and returning to a single point. Wang Lin's true body on the immortal mountain of Ingzhou turned from the netherworld Taiji diagram back into his human form. He landed in front of Lin Feng and said, "Master, the primordial heart demon concealment curse is indeed unique and wondrous. It originates from the heart demon, but it is not something that can be described with the words heart demon. At the beginning of the primordial chaos, there was nothing. There was no matter, no time, no space, no living beings, and no consciousness of emotions. This primordial heart demon concealment curse is to trace back the first emotion and desire in this world of creation. There is no beginning, no end, and no end. It goes with all living beings and is the same as creation. When it is used in combat, it is strange and unpredictable. It can directly attack one's heart and is difficult to guard against." Wang Lin let out a long sigh. Before that black crystal shattered, it should have been a product of Jiang Zhaoyang being sent to the Yu Huang celestial sea in the past, when he used the primordial heart demon concealment curse to revive him. Jiang Zhaoyang used it to be reborn, and the black crystal fell into the hands of Yu Huang celestial sea. Later on, Yu Huang Empress obtained it, which was why it appeared there. Later, it shattered due to some other reason. The Jiang Zhaoyang disciple saw was only a remnant image of the primordial heart demon concealment curse. It wasn't his demonic will or aura. Wang Lin's eyes flickered slightly. "As you said, Master, this is a fated opportunity for disciple. Fellow Taoist, Ning hasn't fully mastered it yet, so disciple wants to give it a try." Lin Feng smiled faintly. "It's good that you can grasp it." Wang Lin nodded and closed his eyes again. In the hall of the Crimson and Black World in the Void Battlefield, there was complete silence. Ning Wanga sat on the sacrificial altar, shrouded in white smoke, while Wang Lin's great devil clone sat in the center of the spell formation, not saying a word or moving. Silently, Dao Yuo and Crocodile God, who already understood the situation, waited patiently and protected the two of them. Time passed quickly. Just as Dao Yuo was examining the spell formation and sacrificial altar, his heart suddenly shook. He vaguely felt a strong wave of power appearing outside the Crimson and Black World. Chapter 1329. Intense demonic power rippled out, causing one's heart to palpitate. Even through the red-black world, Grand Luo could sense the boundless power. What made him feel uneasy was that the demonic power ripple was both unfamiliar and familiar. It was unfamiliar because he had never truly put himself in the other's shoes, and familiar because the other's demonic power ripple was very similar to Grand Luo's. While there were still differences, there was no doubt that they were of the same origin. Yudu, Grand Heavenly Immortal, immediately reacted, and his expression became complicated. Although he had imagined what it would be like when he met his own kind countless times, Grand Heavenly Immortal was still caught off guard when it really happened, and he couldn't calm his emotions. He composed himself and said to the primordial spirit crocodile god, the ancestral crocodile divine armor's treasure, "Please watch over it. I'll go take a look." The crocodile god glanced at Grand Luo and didn't say anything else, nodding steadily. The ancestral crocodile divine armor had not been forged for long, so the growth of the treasure's primordial spirit's consciousness was still rather limited. Lin Feng had forcefully raised it from the spirit nurturing level to the Mahayana level. However, the crocodile god, who looked like a middle-aged man, appeared mature and steady. He was a treasure that Lin Feng had personally forged, and Grand Luo, who had complete trust in Lin Feng, also expressed his trust. He stayed where he was and left the matter to Grand Luo. Grand Luo took a deep breath and left the hall, heading towards the entrance of the red-black world. After they entered the red-black world, the entrance door closed once more, and the world became empty. However, with Grand Luo's current cultivation realm, he had some understanding of the changes in space and could more or less determine the state of the pitch-black devil door. While its exact location was uncertain, residing in the ever-changing void, Grand Luo, who had come into contact with it, could sense the devil door's movements. As his consciousness spread out, Grand Luo frowned slightly, for he could clearly feel that the other party was slowly opening the door. Demons like Mother who are proficient in the human devil path are probably rare. Could Yudu outside the door be able to do the same? Or perhaps they have something in their hands. Grand Luo's mind spun, and he was momentarily hesitant. Red light flashed in the void, and black devil chi surged. The devil gate had already revealed itself. Slowly it opened. Grand Heavenly Immortal frowned. Senior Brother Wang and Dao Friend Ning are both in seclusion. In the war between the two worlds, Teacher Lin and Yudu had a conflict with Imperial Uncle Huan Ri, and they even killed Grand Uncle Kong Yuan. The grudge between them is as deep as the sea. Now that they have entered, I'm afraid it will be disadvantageous to Senior Brother Wang and Dao Friend Ning. Although the memories of his past life had been completely restored, the effects of this life were much more profound for Grand Luo. He was always grateful for Lin Feng's teachings over the years. Usually, when Wang Lin and the other senior brothers came to Yinghai, they would communicate with him, and they had a deep relationship. With that thought, the Grand Luo made up his mind. Slowly opening the demonic gate, he sighed. Although I don't know which of my brethren you are, I'll have to offend you now. The Zenith Heaven Immortal took a step forward and arrived in midair. He pressed his hands on the back of the fiend gate and channeled his demonic power, instantly pushing the fiend gate shut once more. A cold snort came from the other side of the door. Demonic power! Wait, this demonic power! The Zenith Heaven Immortal sighed in his heart and kept quiet. Outside the gate, in the thick black fog, two Yuta beasts stood up like humans and stared at the gate in front of them. In front of them floated an ancient bronze lamp. The wick of the lamp flickered with red light, and under the cover of the red light, most of the black fog was isolated outside. The small amount that seeped in was dispelled by the Origin Heaven Heart mantra that the two Yuta beasts had cast. The red light of the ancient bronze lamp landed on the demonic gate and opened it. One of the Yudu beasts pressed his claws on the surface of the gate and pushed it with force. Just as the gate was about to be pushed open, a huge force came from behind the gate and closed it again. The Yuta beast was instantly enraged. Someone actually beat us to it? This energy wave is demonic power, but wait, this demonic power, this demonic power. The anger on his face gradually turned into astonishment. The other Yuta beast asked solemnly, Ning Feng, what's wrong? The Yuta beast that pushed the gate was Ning Feng Yudu, who had chased after Yin Namlai, fought against Great Chan Yu of the Northern Militant and Great Sage Lu Yuan, and lost to Shurtianhao in the end. He turned to look at the other Yuta beast. Yunqing, could it be Jing Yin and the rest? But through the waves of demonic power, they should be able to recognize my demonic power. The person standing beside Ning Feng Yudu was a Yuta beast that was similar to him. It had a triangular head, and its body was covered in purple light markings. It was slightly taller and thinner than Ning Feng Yudu. Other than purple light, there was also a white halo flashing in its eyes. His name was Yunqing Yudu, and his cultivation was even higher than Ning Feng Yudu's. Like Jingyin Yudu and Bright Slayer Yudu, he was also a strong practitioner of Yudu who was going through the first tribulation. Yunqing Yudu took a look at the demonic gate, then stretched out his claws and pushed it. The demonic gate instantly shook violently. On the other side of the gate, in the black and red world, Grand Luo's body shook violently. He gritted his teeth, and the silvery white fur on his body surged. Purple light markings filled up the gaps, and his body started to grow larger, revealing his true form. Under the activation of demonic power, the black demonic gate was blocked by him, and it still closed. Because they were inside the gate, Grand Luo was more focused on stabilizing the restrictions formed by the black demonic gate. Yunqing Yudu increased his strength, but the gate couldn't be pushed open. Instead, a few cracks appeared on the surface of the demonic gate. However, With this contest of strength, Yunqing Yudu already had an idea in his heart, and his gaze turned deep. Ning Feng Yudu, who was at the side, was now carefully analyzing the power on the other side of the gate. The astonishment on his face turned into anger again. Such waves of demonic power come from the same source as the horn left behind by Her Majesty Yuan. Grand Luo is inside. Ningfeng Yudu stared at the demonic gate. But why is he blocking us? Yunqing Yudu's expression turned grim. Purple light shone on his claws, covering the entire demonic gate. He asked solemnly, Grand Luo, I know you can hear me. You don't know me, and I've never seen you before. I only know your name and your existence. My name is Yunqing, the son of Mirage Sunday. What is the meaning of this? Grand Luo could indeed hear Yunqing Yudu's name. His expression was slightly complicated, and he didn't reply. Yunqing Yudu said, the master of the mystic gate shouldn't be inside, or he would have come out long ago. From the looks of it, he didn't restrict your freedom, nor did he control you. Have you always been conscious and free? If that's the case, why are you blocking us? You're one of us. We're blood relatives. Yunqing Yudu's voice carried a hint of anger. Before this, when a master of the mystic gate touched the spirit sea, did you do everything of your own accord like this? After a moment of silence, Grand Luo's voice came from the demonic gate. You are the son of Imperial Uncle Mirage Sun, so I should call you Brother Yunqing. My rebirth wasn't completely arranged by my father, but by Master Lin. It was also Master Lin who taught me the paths, skills, and cultivation. In the spirit sea, although I've regained my Yuta body, my memory isn't complete. I'm the one who helped Master Lin. After going to the medium-sized world where my mother died, my memory of my past life has been restored. However, I'm blocking your path now on my own accord. Please don't blame me, Brother Yunqing. Hearing what Grand Luo said, Yunqing Yudu and Ningfeng Yudu were both shocked and furious. Ningfeng Yudu shouted, Have you lost your mind? Are you going to help that human and make things difficult for your own race? Slowly, Grand Luo said, Although my memory of my past life has been restored, to me, the one that affected me the most is this life. I don't want to be enemies with Yudu, but if I have to choose, I'm even more unwilling to be enemies with the human race. Ningfeng Yudu was enraged. Yunqing Yudu raised his hand and stopped Ningfeng Yudu. He then said solemnly, Her Majesty Yo Huang's plan had an accident, causing your rebirth to be an accident. At the same time, without anyone to guide you, you were bewitched by the master of the mystic gate and bewitched by the human race. When you were reborn, our race was still outside the great thousand worlds. Let's not talk about this for now, but now that our race has returned to the great thousand worlds, it's time for you to return. Yunqing Yudu said coldly, You need to know that no matter if it's your demon soul or corporeal body, you belong to the Yudu race. The human race can't tolerate you. Grand Luo said, During these years, it's all thanks to Teacher Lin's guidance that I'm able to regain my corporeal body today. It's all thanks to Teacher Lin's help. The people of Xianmin Tianzong get along well with me. They don't look down on me. They don't view me with hostility. They don't guard against me. And they don't treat me with special treatment. As for the other humans, I've never come into contact with them. The other demon races are the same as well. Although it's very lonely, this is the choice I made. I don't regret it. Hearing Grand Luo's words, Ningfeng Yu coldly laughed and said, The master of the mystic gate took you in because he wants the spirit sea to deal with our race. Do you think he has any good intentions? Right now, you're still useful. When you're no longer useful, do you think you'll have a good ending? You'll be like cattle and sheep. You'll only be slaughtered and bled. Grand Luo said silently, I've said it before. The one who affects me the most is this life. If it wasn't for Teacher Lin, the me in this life would have already died and reincarnated. I can faintly sense that back then, Teacher Lin adopted me and even saved me because I'm a Yuta beast. But regarding the spirit sea and your return, he might not have known about it. It seems like it was just a casual move. My feeling might not be correct, but I choose to believe in Teacher Lin. Grand Luo's voice was very calm. Now, and even in the future, under the premise that no one offends me. As long as I don't become enemies with the human race, there will be a place for me in the Mystic Gate. This isn't Teacher Lin's promise, it's my own guess. It might not be correct, but I choose to believe in him. Ningfeng Yudu's gaze turned cold. Yunxing Yudu said in a heavy voice, "You're the son of Her Majesty Yuwang. Her Majesty Yuwang has placed great hopes on you. You failed your mission." On the other side of the Demon Gate, Grand Luo fell silent. His calm and resolute voice gradually turned bitter. Mission. Chapter 1330. Within the Devil Gate, in the black and red world, Grand Luo leaned against the Devil Gate. His expression gradually changed from confusion to self-mockery and bitterness. Mission. He shook his head with a bitter smile. Lin Feng had slain the top experts of the Yudu race, the great demon Void Yuan of the End of Cultivation. Shi Tianhao had almost killed Ning Fengyu outside the gate during the war between the two worlds. However, Grand Luo couldn't feel any hatred towards them. When a person thought about it carefully, he would feel a sense of sorrow. Even his current Yuda body, other than the remains of Yuwang, Celestial Sea, there was also the flesh and blood essence and essence that Lin Feng had extracted from Void Yuan's corporeal body. The feelings in Grand Luo's heart were already very clear. Just like what he had said, the deepest influence on his current thoughts was still his present life. Looking back to the past, he who had been sent into reincarnation by a secret art the moment he was born, and his feelings towards his parents, Yuwang and Yuho, originated from the brand in his demon soul, and not from daily interactions. However, at this moment, Grand Luo still felt bitter in his heart. If he wasn't Yudu, if he wasn't Yuwang's son, he wouldn't be where he was today. Different from ordinary people, other than Lin Feng's teachings, he was born with unique conditions, which all stem from his bloodline inheritance. If it wasn't for this special bloodline, would Lin Feng have saved him back then? Grand Luo could faintly feel that Lin Feng, who had saved his life back then, didn't know about the matters of the Spirit Sea and the Yudu race returning to the Great Kiliacosm. However, if he didn't have the Yuda bloodline, would Lin Feng have still saved him back then and taught him later on? Back then, maybe it was just a casual move by Lin Feng, but it was precisely because it could have an unexpected effect that he had laid out the chess piece in advance, wasn't it? Saving him might still have been done in passing, but taking him in as a disciple to teach him might not have been the case. Grand Luo knew himself well. Back then, when he was a human, at least in this life. As a human, Luo Yao's talent in cultivation was at most above average. He probably wouldn't be favored by the master of the Profound Gate. What exactly had made him who he was now? And where should he go from here? The Zenith Heavenly Immortal felt a wave of panic. The imprint that was engraved in his demon soul and the pulsating bloodline all over his body caused his heart to tremble, and he found it hard to maintain his composure. On the other side of the door, Yun Sheng Yudu's cold voice came. Living in seclusion, hiding from the world, is this your decision? It's just a cowardly escape and self-deception. When my clan killed the people close to you in Xianmen Tianzong, and they asked you to fight against your own clan, what did you do? You didn't care about Grand Uncle Kung Yuan's death, but when the Xianmen Tianzong people, who were close to you, and the humankind, whom you couldn't bear to hurt, slaughtered your own kind, did you still not care? Before our race returned to the boundless world, you were the only Yudu in the boundless world. The reason you were able to keep your life was because of our existence, because our race was still strong, and because those humans wanted to find us who had entered the Blackboard realm through you. When you were the only Yuda left in the great heaven primordial world, what would you do? When the other humans want to kill you, will the celestial sect of the mysterious gate become enemies with their own race in order to protect you, a demon clan? We are of the same race, and we will protect every member of our race and fight every foreign enemy to the end. Xianmen Tianzong may become enemies with the demon race for you, but will they become enemies with the other humans for you? A Yudu? Yin Sheng Yudu's tone was cold. Have you ever thought about these questions? when you were still weak, when you were still unable to pose too much of a threat. These might not have been problems. But are you willing to live a peaceful life, not moving forward? When you have enough power to threaten those humans, will they believe you just because you say you want to hide from the world? And how many people will make you their target out of greed? When you have no other value, Shinmin Tianzong may be the first to kill you and use your flesh and blood to forge treasures. Grand Luo was silent. Outside the Devil Gate, Ning Fengyu said impatiently, "Don't lie to yourself. You said you don't want to become enemies with our race, but now that you're stopping us from entering, you're already helping Shinmin Tianzong and threatening our race. Earlier, you said that your past life's memories haven't fully recovered. Fine, I'll believe you for now, but what about now? Because your actions will bring a huge threat to our race in the future. When something happens, do you still dare to say that it has nothing to do with you and that it wasn't your wish?" Grand Luo closed his eyes, and after a moment of silence, he said softly, "I don't care if I'm selfish or cowardly, but today, I will not retreat." If he retreated, both Wang Lin and Ning Wanga would be in danger. Although the Wang Lin in this black and red world was only a clone of the Great Devil, he was at a crucial moment of comprehending the Tao. If anything happened, his original body would be implicated as well. Ning Fengyu was enraged. "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. If it wasn't for the fact that you're Yo Huang's son, we're of the same race. Who would have the patience to talk nonsense with you?" Grand Luo said calmly, "Before this, I've always wanted to understand my origins, hoping to know the ins and outs of the matter. Recently, my wish has finally been fulfilled. Be it the Yudu race or the human race, I have no intention of becoming enemies with them. Before you guys return to the great Kiliacosm, I could still muddle along with my conscience. But you guys still came back in the end, much earlier than I expected. However, this should be normal. Back then, the powerful race that ruled over Heaven Wasteland and shocked the entire Heaven Primordial world would naturally not be willing to be trapped in a dimensional world. No one could force you to stay there." Grand Luo's gaze was complicated, and he sighed softly. "You guys have finally returned, and will once again enter a life-and-death struggle with the human race. It's indeed hard for me to stay out of it. It's because of the Yudu bloodline that I was able to enter Master Lin's tutelage, to be able to form an undying demon soul. The power of my innate bloodline also played a role that can't be ignored. I'm enjoying the legacy that father and mother left behind, yet I still have to betray father's expectations and trust. To me, perhaps only by abandoning this body can I be free. Now that I've awakened and been reborn, if I die, I'll lose the chance to reincarnate. If I die, I'll truly be completely annihilated, and I'll no longer be a Yudu soul of Grand Luo." Grand Luo laughed self-mockingly. "Teacher Lin saved my life in the past, but to me, I still have to walk this path. Is this an escape? I don't know, but I'm not willing to choose any other path, so this is the only one I can choose." Grand Luo said calmly, "But at this moment, I can't retreat, so I'll have to offend you." Outside the Devil Gate, Yun Sheng Yuda's expression calmed down as well. Silently, he said, "Since this is your decision, there's nothing more to say. Since you've decided to betray your race and the glory that should have belonged to you, stubbornly sticking to the human race and standing in our way, we won't be merciful to a rebel like you." As Yun Sheng Yudu spoke, his figure gradually changed. Thick silver-white fur emerged from his body, and it was as if silver-white light was flashing nonstop. Purple light patterns filled the void, covering the silver-white fur on the surface of his body. On the 3 long horns on his head, rings of white light shone continuously. "I'm not in the mood to say anything. I'll spare your life and let the future prove how childish and naive your thoughts are, to prove that I'm right and you're wrong." As he spoke, Yun Sheng Yudu directly revealed his true form. His huge claws reached into the void, wanting to grab the entire pitch-black Devil Gate in his palm. As majestic, demonic energy vibrated, cracks appeared on the pitch-black Devil Gate. Yun Shengyudu's voice was emotionless as he said indifferently, "Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. You can explain your rebellious actions to Her Majesty Yuwang yourself." Within the crimson and black world, Grand Luo looked up and saw that the entire dimensional realm was quaking incessantly. Not only were the cracks on the demon gate behind them becoming increasingly clear, but even the void before them was beginning to warp and distort. The Devil Gate's restrictions were connected to the entire world. Yun Sheng Yudu seemed to want to destroy the Devil Gate along with this dimensional world, as well as Grand Luo and the others in this world. Ningfeng Yudu also calmed down at this moment. He turned his head and stared at Yinsheng Yudu. That traitor deserved to die. But in this world, there might be some clues left behind by Her Majesty that can guide us to his other arrangements. There's a change in Her Majesty Yohuang's plan back then. If we don't remedy it, we won't have full confidence in the battle for the Spirit Sea, Yinsheng Yudu said calmly. He said that he has the will to die, and I can see that although he's confused, it's not something he said in a moment of impulse. But now, he's not retreating, which means that other than him, there are other people in this world, and for some reason, they're under his protection. They might be activating the clues left behind by Her Majesty Yuwang or Empress Yuwang. In the battle for the Spirit Sea, other than Taishu Temple, Xianmen Tianzong is our greatest opponent. If Her Majesty Yuwang's other arrangements fall into their hands, it'll be even more disadvantageous to our race. Yin Sheng Yudu's voice was cold. Other than here, we can still find other clues. At most, we'll just waste a little more time. Why don't we just bury Xianmen Tianzong here as a blood sacrifice for Grand Uncle Kong Yuan? As he spoke, the waves of Yin Sheng Yudu's demonic energy grew stronger. After a moment of silence, Ningfeng Yudu also infused his own demonic energy into the Devil Gate, causing the pitch-black Devil Gate to tremble even more. In the black and red world within the Devil Gate, Grand Luo used his arcane energy to communicate with the crocodile god. In the Great Hall, Wang Lin and Ning Wanga were still in seclusion. Grand Luo took a deep breath. The hesitation and pain in his eyes temporarily disappeared, replaced by determination. He abruptly retracted his demonic energy from the pitch-black Devil Gate. With a loud rumble, the cracked Devil Gate that was on the verge of shattering reopened at this moment, slowly pushed open. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.